It was awesome. I got here in 44 minutes the other day, Monday. It took me 2
Be sure to
hours.
leave your wallets.
Oh geez, I got stuck in traffic today. Coming here,
Well,
I
brought
got
this
here
back,
early, 8
you know.
o'clock. It's usually a
Oh, your green bag?
15, 17 minute run.
Hopefully that'll
It's 35.
prompt me to remind me.
Golly.
Yeah.
It's not late, I tell you.
Thank you, everybody. We're glad you're here. This is session 6, sell your listing with Ignite, and the inimitable Bill Haas who will be teaching. You're going to love it. And he is ready to get going, and he has all kinds of cool tech tools. Just saying. He likes to experiment. How are you, Tasha?
I'm good. How are you?
Yes, there are more coming, as the name tends to indicate.
All right, people, bear with me 1 second here. I thought I had walked over there. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Does it seem hot in here to anybody else?
Extremely. Yes. Thank you.
Listing resources, there it is. Okay. Okay. All right. Name tag. Does everybody have your name tags? I'm Bill Haas, by the way. But if you have your name tags, that will help me out so that
I don't. I
You
was
don't?
sitting here class 2 and 3 when they were issued, but I think she said she was gonna go make them for
She
the
is.
two of us.
She is.
because I'm horrible with names, so if I
Okay.
forget it or butcher it, excuse me. So I'm Bill Haas. I am an agent here. I was one of the founding members of this office. I helped open it up with a couple other key agents. I've been a team leader, I've been an OP, the different roles in Keller Williams. I was even like what Ellie was for one night, an MCA. So I've kind of done all the stuff. Here at KW, I've been in the business since, well, I got my license in 1990. I really didn't start working real estate till 1993, but I've been doing it full time since then. I say I a lot, but it's really a we. My wife Kathy, she helps out too with the business. She's licensed. We have 4 kids, so there was a period of time where she was more focused on them, but our youngest is now the only one in the house, and she's 13, so Kathy's more active in the business. We try to set it up where I focus more on the listings and her on the buyers, but we both kind of work things simultaneously and help out. Have had a team, had assistants, have kind of scaled back. We're just focusing on select number of clients at any time, so my volume is slightly less than it used to be, but I try to, that's part of my value proposition. I tell sellers I'm giving them real direct attention and giving them a lot of interaction, where you get into some of these bigger teams, they have a lot of assistants and you're delegating and they're dealing with different people. That's kind of what I'm using for that. So I'm going to give you access to this document here. My name and phone number and email is on there. You guys are welcome to email me. Better to text me or call me with any questions. I kind of follow the curriculum a little bit, but I deviate. I've been taught this class probably a dozen times now, and I try to bring in some practical stuff that I use. And everybody does, you'll find in this residential brokerage, does their business a little differently. So we do a lot of things that is we consider up and above what other agents do for their clients. And the one takeaway I want you to really think about when I'm teaching this class is the title of the class is How to Sell Your Listings, but how you sell your listings, it's actually more important what we're talking about doing in selling your listings is that it helps you get more listings. Everything that you do, you can use as a value proposition, as something that you can share with a prospective seller that you do that differentiates you from other real estate agents. And is what you'll find out is there's a lot of real estate agents out there. And you want to differentiate yourself and look professional. I remember going to a class when I was a brand new agent. The guy's name was Scott Askew. He's still around. He was owned a brokerage here in Georgia, and he taught new agents. And his biggest piece of advice was fake it till you make it. And you're not going to know everything. The reality is all this business, none of it's rocket science. It's not super complicated, but there's a lot of moving parts, in residential real estate, from buyers to sellers to finance to home construction to inspections to, all the different elements to contracts. And as the more that you get involved and do these, and the more that you sit in that team room, the training room in there, not the training room, but like the work room, that's like invaluable. You'll pick up all kinds of ditties of information. There's always people you can ask questions to if something comes up that you're not aware of or you don't know. So you just want to be always in curiosity. And I don't know, who went to the team meeting on Tuesday? Raise your hand. I mean, that was fabulous. I've been doing this over 25 years, and Becky Wynn threw some stuff out, what she's doing with her team that I don't do, that I can incorporate. So it's always a progression. You're always on that ride to the top, never getting there on what you learn in this business. And there's always new scenarios. But the more things you get involved with and do, the more you're going to feel comfortable and confident in dealing with people. And if you don't know the answer, just be candid. I don't know, but I'll find out. And buy a little time, get the answer, and get back to them. It's no big deal. Most people, it's not even on their radar that you guys are new. You're probably more concerned about it than they are. I went for a listing when I first got in the business, and it was in Gwinnett, and there was this, and my name is spelled H-A-A-S, Haas, and there was this agent who now is part of Keller Williams, from what I understand, up in Gwinnett, who was like a mega agent out there. He had like significant market share. His signs were everywhere. And his name was spelled H-L-A-A-S. There was an L in there. And I went to this listing appointment, and it was like the first month or two that I was in the business, and the seller's like, well, I see your signs everywhere. I'm like, I'm just kind of went with it. I didn't say, no, you don't. And they thought I was that. And, you know, after even being there for an hour and talking to them, I was able to not spill the beans or come across as being that lack of knowledgeable in the industry that they're like, I wonder if this is really the guy we're talking about. So you can do this. So anyway, tell me your name again.
I'm Rochelle.
I'm not gonna. I mean, it's gonna take like 5 times.
It's okay. It's okay.
Rochelle and
Colette.
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 Colette. Okay. And Larry, you don't have one either, but I remember you. Everybody else has name tags, so we're good. All right. So we're gonna start off with just the thing. I do got to pull up the PowerPoint. Let's do that. All right. See, the thing is, I've got usually all my passwords come up, but when we come in now, they want to do it on streaming, so I can't actually use my computer. So I am forced to log on here. How's everybody doing with their calls and note cards? That's what we're going to talk about first. Is anybody doing it at all?
I went to lunch yesterday with a prospective client, and she took me to a commercial guy
Oh, nice.
that wants to sell his building. He's going to build $1 million houses.
Nice.
So I kind of did in a way.
Kind of building.
He's got a business where he used to go all over Europe and buy furniture and stuff, and then he's closing it down and going to have an auction.
We just bought a building like that.
Oh,
It wasn't
yeah.
on Peachtree, was it?
No. It's on Canton Road.
If I can't sign out there. All right, we're not going to do the PowerPoint. There's a PowerPoint that follows this, and actually, you know what I can do? I can use it. It would be helpful to have those. All right, let's just talk about it. It's in, I've got it on hard copy here. So how's everybody doing? We've got the note cards, we've got previewing listings, and any ahas? Has anybody been doing those tasks?
I've been calling, but no note cards.
You've been calling people, noting note cards? How's that going?
Good.
What's your rap when you call people?
You know, it's typically friends and
Mhm.
just saying, hey, you know, hey Bill, Tom, how you doing? You know, and just I kind of get into a little bit of rapport, and then and from there I say, hey, look, just got my real estate license. You know, I've been buying and selling houses in the Atlanta area for about 10 years. You know, who do you know that's buying or selling a piece of property?
Right.
And would you refer me?
Yeah. How easy is that? It's just about being top of mind a lot of times with people you're calling.
And
you
then
don't-
I'm doing something else as well. So then I'm also driving around and finding vacant houses.
Right.
And then have a private investor that's getting me the phone numbers for them.
Okay.
And then I
For the
say,
owners.
hey, I found your name and number online. Says that you own XYZ piece of property. Is that accurate? Well, yeah, it is. Well, I'm Tom Battle. I'm a real estate agent at Keller Williams. I'm also an investor.
Right,
So, are you interested in selling the house by chance?
right,
No, I'm not. Well, do you know anybody who's interested in selling their house?
right. Boom.
So yeah, that's what I'm doing. But I haven't been sending. I should probably be sending follow-up cards to those people that I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, not necessarily. I would disagree with that. But I think the people, the phone call is good. You can't beat that. But it reinforces it, because who gets mail and actually looks at what comes in the mail if it's not like, it's probably a bill, you set it aside. If everything else, maybe 1 out of 10 may be interesting or something pertinent, promotion, but the rest of it goes in the trash. But if you get anything that has a handwritten, your name on it, I mean, you're almost always going to open it up.
Immediately, yep.
And it's like, it's a billboard, like a person driving by a billboard. They see your name, put a card in it, and it's just one other touch being top of mind. So I can personally say I'm not very good at writing notes, but when I did do it, it had a major impact. So it's really tried and true. It's about getting those touches in. And I would say, and if you don't know the people, sending a note card doesn't have as much impact as sending to somebody that you do know. You're just going to have a higher chance. In Keller Williams, as you continue to do your training, all prospects fall into Mets and have Mets and not Mets. And the have Mets you're going to touch more times, and they're going to deliver a higher percentage of lead opportunities, whether it's them or people that they know that refer you. So I would focus on the Mets first in your world where you're at for trying to develop business in general. So is this something, I know it's part of the curriculum, has anybody talked to you about the note cards? I mean, we used to, at one point in time, we
Yeah.
actually even handed them out.
Stacy did. She said she even has some in her office we're welcome to have.
Yeah, I mean, you
And
just
she
try
said
to.
y'all can put the postage on it. Excuse me.
Yeah. I mean, who has a database? Who's keeping a database?
Building it.
I mean, you all have a
Mine's in my
database
phone.
in what? This little thing here?
Your phone or something.
Right. So whether it's your Apple or Google contacts, I mean, right now, everybody has a real basic CRM. You can add addresses into that through our Keller Williams command, which is still evolving. That's a much more powerful tool. But I would get all your Mets in there and try to pick, divide it into groups of like 5 to 10, how much ever you can do, and just bang out make it set yourself a goal to do 5 a day or 3 a day or whatever it is. Just anything is going to be better. And if you miss a day, try to pick it up and catch it up the next day, so you're to date. So at the end of the week, you've met your goal. So I think those two things are really important. Phone calls, and you can do the phone call followed up with the note card. That's super powerful. And then there's previewing. Previewing was one of the other exercises. Who all has their super key by now? Everybody raise your hand. Anybody not have it yet? You guys still don't have yours yet? It's like a whole new world once you get that super key, because you can go in all these houses. It's really cool. One of the things that I like to do is go through the MLS, and it's kind of changed. It used to be that listing agents would show like homes that are vacant, and they would say, like in the remarks or in the showing instructions, show anytime. Now with these showing, and it used to be a lot different. When I first got in the business, you would actually, a lot of times the other agent had to be at the house just for a preview. it's all kind of evolved. Now you can go to a lot of vacant houses just by using that showing time and making a request, and it'll automatically give you permission. And not all agents will designate a house that's vacant as vacant, but if your little patch, your area that you want to work in, if you create a search in the MLS where it notifies you of these vacant properties, and you make note of them and print out the sheet, those are really easy to get in and out of because you don't have to worry about scheduling an appointment with a seller. It's just simple. So focus on your previews initially on vacant properties. In some cases, you'll see right in the FMLS, show anytime, just go. In some cases, they'll say use showing time, and that's what we do on our vacant listings. We have them use that showing time, which is a system where you can request a showing and the seller gets involved and they give permission, or can. But we have it just as a validity check, so we know who's going in and out of our listings. But as soon as an agent makes a request on a vacant listing to go see it, we don't even approve it. It auto approves, and then they're free to go almost immediately. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So check out the vacant listings. They are real easy to get in and out of. And start previewing properties. You know, print them out, have them in your car. If you don't make a special afternoon out of it, a lot of times you can just hit these properties to and from your daily travels when you're coming into the office or you're heading home or you're running around doing your errands. Pop in and check them out. And the other thing I like to do is if it is my market area, I used to do it on paper. Now I kind of do it with another system. But I like to track these vacant listings that I preview so that I can follow up and see what the progression was. So I've walked into this house, I see what it's all about, I got a feel, I see where it's listed, and then you follow it. You might see price reductions, and then it's either going to go under contract or it's going to be expired or withdrawn. And then you see that, and then you will, you kind of follow it there. And then ultimately, if it does go under contract, it typically will sell. And it's always interesting to go back and look at those properties that you previewed, at X list price and see what it ultimately settled for, right? And that helps you build that market knowledge in the area that you're in so that you have confidence and you really are starting to understand the pricing. So when you go to look at a house with a buyer, you even have a stronger feel if that house is priced right, just by continually doing things like that. Does that make sense?
Good.
All right. So in this class, like other ones, there's a couple videos, and the videos take some time. And I'm going to ask your permission for a couple things. One of them is that we don't watch the videos, that I have Stacy send you a link where you can watch it on your own. I think there's one for open houses, and there's one for possibly staging. So if you guys give me your pinky promise that you will watch the videos, we're going to stick to my script here. The other thing is, and I don't know if the other instructors are doing it, I should probably put a thing with the camera and the mic, but there is a requirement in the class where we actually do lead generation calls, where we break and for 15 minutes we call prospective buyers and sellers. I'm not going to make you guys do that if you're okay with that, if you promise me that you do it out of class. Are the other instructors doing that?
Yes.
Okay. If you don't tell Stacy and you promise to do it later, we'll do it.
Commitment.
All right, are we on the same boat?
We're
Stacy
on the
didn't hear
same
that.
page.
All right,
Yes.
so yeah, but I'm telling you, it's like once you start doing it, it's like I got 4 kids. Raise your hand if you have kids. I've got like my kids, 2 of them. My daughters especially, but my son is very shy too. He's so afraid to put himself out there and be embarrassed. It's like, who cares, man? Just like pick up the phone. It's like people get so afraid of like calling people. Just call them and talk and get those questions out. Like Tom said, it's amazing the way you'll stumble upon business. It's really absolutely amazing.
He's in real estate too?
What's that?
He's in real estate as well?
My kids?
Oh, your son.
No, he's not. He's a
Oh.
student, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
like, you know, whether it's girls or anything, you know, I mean,
I
he's
see.
just, he's
Yeah.
afraid to put himself out there. Put yourself out there. Who cares if you stumble or you make, come across as being silly? Just try to improve from the situation, right? You know, mix it up.
That's
Have
what we
fun with it.
learn.
But
Yeah.
pick up that phone and start calling some people, and it'll put money in your pocket. I mean, if that's what you're doing this for, is to make money, it will work. I mean, it's just, it's the God honest truth.
Bill, I have something to add about because it happened to me, about the super boxes. So
Yes.
I went to a house, I was carrying a client around in Canton, Georgia, and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for the darn thing to go, and I'm like, what in the hell's going on? So before you hit the key, there's a little process to it. You got to tell the box to search for your phone, and you do that, the key releases underneath it or on the inside of it. So push up on it, and when you see that red light, then hit the key. I sat there for 20 minutes, nothing happened. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah,
So
that little red light's gotta be blinking.
yeah.
But it works pretty good once you get it going, so.
Oh, it works super fast. So anyway, that was just a little pitfall I had. I didn't want anybody else to fall into that. It's a little bit frustrating. So.
Yes, it is. I have the same problem.
So we got our daily 10-4, we talked about that. Handwritten notes, lead generate for business, get your head in the game. You know, leads lead to appointments, lead to contracts, agreements which lead to contracts. So, and then you get paid.
I have a question.
So, yes.
So someone tagged me in, someone has their house for rent. Do you suggest getting involved in rentals like that? Cause she's tagged me in on Facebook and she said, hey Tosh, can you check with my friend? He has his home for rent. I think it's like $2,500
Right.
a month, but it's far.
Yeah. Rentals are like a completely different ballgame.
Okay.
And there's some entities out there that focus on doing rentals, and they do property management. We don't really do property management at Keller Williams, so we're not going to collect rent and do things like that. So there is, you know, if your prospective client isn't going to manage that rental, then we've got to find somebody else to do that if they're not going to do it themselves. I personally do a couple rentals a year, and it's not very lucrative compared to sales.
Right.
And I do it as a courtesy. If it's like an important client, or I think I'm going to get future business or referrals, I'll do it. But I state that, and because you don't want, you know, another agent that may be more rental centric coming in and, you know, losing that business. But from my perspective, I try to avoid doing rentals because unless you just have unlimited time,
No. I don't.
it can be as time consuming as a regular listing.
Yeah.
And there's really two sides to it. You're gonna make more money as the listing side of the rental, the lease, you know, where you're actually representing the seller. If you're representing tenants and trying to find them a place, all you gotta do is go into our FMLS matrix and search rentals and look at the co-op that they're gonna share with you for bringing a tenant.
Great.
It's like,
Yeah, it's
typically
like,
it's a couple $100. I mean, it might be like 150 or 200, and you're working your tail off.
Right.
So if it's a prospective tenant that wants to go see stuff, I'll send them the information and say, look through these if anything is interesting. Google it and you'll find out who the agent is who has the listing for the lease, and I would contact them directly. And I don't get into like driving around showing them. It's just, there's only so many hours in the day, and it's just, you can't support yourself on it.
yeah.
I own rental houses.
Yeah.
What I like about it though, from my side, is if you can get, you know, get the listing, is you get a better quality tenant than when you put it on Craigslist and all that. And I don't manage my properties, but I have one that I'll put on the MLS because it's just, you get a better quality.
And that's what I mean, typically you get the first month's rent as an agent who has a listing, a lease listing. You're gonna share part of that with a co-op. Usually it's not 50-50, you give them a lesser amount.
50
But
to
you're-
25.
It varies. You'll see all kinds of stuff. You'll see
Yeah.
flat dollar amounts, you'll see percentages, but It's usually not half, and it's, so I mean, you know, for the leasing agent, could be, you know, if it rents for 45 or $5,000 a month, or a big house even more, that could be, you know, it could be a nice little paycheck. But you're expected to do stuff. You gotta qualify the tenants, you gotta show the property, you've got to, I do background checks. I've got a service that I put them through that does criminal background checks, credit checks, et cetera. And then,
Can you give me the name of that service?
there's one of them through FMLS now, but I use My Smart Move. It's a TransUnion company. If you, and you don't have to write this down, you're gonna have access to this in a second, but if you email me or text me at that number with any questions from the class, I'll get back to you.
I can't see it, I'm sorry.
It's okay, you'll see it in a sec.
Okay.
So does anybody have any other questions before we start here? Okay. So for me, selling your listing, what do you think? What would you think, and this is kind of an open-ended question, it can go in different directions, but I'd be curious to get your response as to what is the most important thing in selling your listing? What do you think it is?
Advertisement.
The right price.
Bingo. Pricing is mission critical, and if you don't have it priced right on the front end, in many cases you're spinning your wheels. The other thing is, if you get a listing, it's only new how many times? Once. I mean, you know, it could be off the market for a while and come back on as newer, but basically you only have your listing new one time. And I've been doing this a long time, and even in the worst market, you know, back in 2007 and 2008 when everything was crashing, and you'll see it here, I don't have the information here, but it's something that we do in the office, and we call it our stats. Who's been exposed to our stats, our quarterly stats, our monthly stats? You guys seen that? That is not it.
No.
So keep your eye out. Stacy will send out emails with links to a Google Docs, and there's all kinds of really valid information. But the bottom line is, if it's not priced right, there's a low probability you're going to be successful in selling it. And you may be the first act of like a 3-act play where the 2 other acts are other agents that follow you up, and they end up the sellers getting realistic and lower the price and they sell it. There's some adage, it's like I want to be the first something, the second wife, and the third agent on the listing. It's like the order you want to go. I always forget it. The interesting thing, getting back to those stats, is we've tracked it, and we've got a statistician, a company that does market research for us that delivers this information and puts it in presentable format, which is really amazing. If we have time at the end, I'll show it to you. It's just so that you're familiar with it if you need it. But one of the things they do is they track listings that sold, not just Keller Williams, but the whole FMLS, right? And they divide all the sold listings into ones that had to have a price reduction and ones that did not. And then they break it down even further to ones that had the same agent and ones that had different agents. Have any of you guys heard any of this? Does this?
No.
So over and over, even in the worst market, where things, I mean, we're talking things were just crashing, the homes that were priced right, that didn't have to have a price reduction, that ultimately sold, the average days on market were in the teens in that time period. And it's still true. Now it's like single digits. And that's the average of all the sold properties that didn't have a price reduction. You look at the converse of that, ones that did have price reduction and their total days on market, and it may be over 100 right now. You can even drill down into areas and price ranges on how that affects it. As you get up into the more luxury market, it does take longer for those sales to close. But the bottom line is homes go under contract quicker. They sell for a higher percentage of their asking price significantly, and the days on market are significantly less if you price it right on the front end and don't need that price reduction. And we've got the data to back that up over and over, even in the worst markets. So yes, pricing is the most important. So this is really straddles one of the other classes you've been in, but I think it's so important I wanted to cover it and give you some insight. And we had a little CE course here yesterday from FMLS covering a product called Remind. Have you guys, was anybody in it first off? Okay, well, that's pretty amazing, wasn't it?
It was
The
good.
resources. You were there too, Tom?
I was. I had to leave in the middle of it. I
Uh-huh.
thought it was a shorter class, and I had a
It was
listing
a
appointment.
3-hour CE, and it's basically a database that pulls from not only FMLS, but tax records, and there's a variety of different resources that it pulls from, and it puts it into a format where can help you identify and evaluate prices. So as we get into some of this stuff, some of these things that I do to market my listings and sell them, I'm kind of a technology wonk. I probably could be a lot better, but I understand technology pretty well. So if you go to the website, if you're on your computer here, or when you get home you want to write it down, quapignite.info.
Spell the first word?
KWA.
KWAP, Ignite.
Ignite.
Info?
Is that slash info?
No, it's .info. There it is. Comes right up. Got it?
Yes.
Yes.
For those of you who have computers, did it work?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So these are, this has some information in it, and all the blue ones are hyperlinks. Some of the things, it may bring you to a login page that you don't have access to, but you can kind of back in and find out the actual resource website I'm talking about. And some of them are related to FMLS, some of them are related to our Keller Williams. But this is just some of the stuff we're going to be going over today. So if you don't have your computer here, you can just write down www.kwapignite.info, and it points to this page. And we're going to talk a little bit about staging, but before you do, this this is something I use, and I'm giving you these tools. You're not going to use them all the time, but they'll help you sell your listings. But this is where I buy my domains, mydomain.com. It's like a GoDaddy. Who's bought a URL before? Anybody? So for every one of our listings we buy a URL, and we make it the address of the property, 5179 hollandct.info. And you can point different things, if you buy a website, to that address. And I'll show you what we do. But I get the .infos because .coms are $9.99 for the first year. .nets are only $12.99. The .info ones, which is kind of pertinent because you're providing information about the listing. The .info ones used to be $1.99 for the first year. They went up to $3.99 now. But we always reserve a custom domain, and we use that as a resource in all of our marketing for that listing, pointing to that domain. And I'll show you ultimately where it points to and how we use it. But that's how I did this. That's how I did this listing resources. I just reserved the name quapignite.info. It cost me $4, and I'll be able to use it again and the training comes on. They're going to want me to renew it after a year for like $9, and I'll probably just get another domain for another year that's similar to this one and point it towards this thing. This is a Google Docs. Who uses Google products? Who's Google and who's Apple? Android, raise your hand. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Apple?
I have an Apple phone and Google.
Okay.
I use my Google Calendar on my Apple products, though, so
I'm kind of
I like
all
Google.
in on Google.
Yeah. I believe it. They're good.
I don't know. I mean, the whole thing, like, you know, I've got one of those little Google Home things in my kitchen. And one of my friends came over and was like, you know, they're listening to you, everything you say. I'm like, where's your phone? It's right here. I'm like, you know, they're listening to you, everything you say.
You gotta put it in the microwave.
No.
Oh, Lord.
So it's like, you know, if somebody's listening or could be listening to us all right now, just as we have our cell phone on. But I'm deep in Google, Gmail, Google Drive, other stuff. I find there's a lot of useful tools, the calendars, the keep notes, etc. I don't know why I don't like Apple, but I've got this distaste for Apple products.
They're very well gated.
I don't know. They don't have a
Guarded.
back button. Every time I like go over to my mom and I'm like on her iPad, I'm like, how do I go back to the previous things? It's like there's never a good solution to that, but that's just me talking. So this is actually a website, you know, because when you create a Google Doc, you can create a hyperlink and share it with somebody. It's actually like a web page. That's what this is.
So Bill, every single listing that you have, you create a homepage for that listing or a URL address for that listing, and then you dump everything into it and you point everybody to that. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. And I'm going to show you exactly what we do in a minute.
Versus FMLS?
Well, that too. So
Okay.
So I don't know how Brad and Stacy has told you, but Keller Williams, like most other real estate companies, are all independent contractors. We all do things a little differently. There's a word called bolt-on technology. Basically, it's like third-party stuff, like databases. There's or CRMs, customer relation management tools. Top Producers. Anybody ever heard of that? Top Producer Real Estate. You know, it's been around since it was a DOS product. You can pay a subscription fee and put all your contacts in there and do marketing. There's dozens of different tools. And that's just the CRM. There's all kinds of other real estate related tools, like a lot of these are, that are bolt-on. Keller Williams is like, that's our data. We want to keep that close to the vest. We don't want to be giving all of our data and information to third parties. We'd rather keep it in, and so they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars on creating technology. Now, it's complicated because you're trying to mesh together so many different things. It is not an easy thing to do, but they're committed to doing it. And if you were in the team meeting or watched it stream yesterday, we have a convention every year called the Family Reunion. It's in February. And Keller Williams agents from across the world convene, and there's all kinds of breakout sessions. It's a big party and a lot of learning, a lot of fun. But they usually roll out different big initiatives, and that consumer app, there's already a consumer app, but the one that they're rolling out allegedly at our family reunion next month has been, they've had Google employees testing it, but it is our own app, and it's a lot more than just looking at houses. It's supposed to be a tool that people can use for, it's like multifaceted, and it's, you know, some say it's a complete game changer, but they're bringing that stuff in-house. A lot of stuff I'm showing you here is not in-house. It's either third party that's either free, or in some cases you pay certain amounts of money for things, but they still could be useful and valid.
So you're branding the property?
Well, yes and no. I mean,
listing?
it's just the address. It's just really a way to convey information. But what did I start out telling you guys about all this stuff? It serves a dual purpose.
Marketing.
Selling your listing, but also doing what?
At the right
Some of you guys
price.
came in late.
Differentiating yourself.
Yeah, all this stuff that we do to sell our listing, some of it may not even be necessary, but it's shiny and it's nice. And when you go talk to a prospective seller and say, look, you know, I get a URL of your street address and I do a website of your property. I'd get the best residential photographer to take pictures. Not only does that help, but it helps you get the listing if you haven't gotten it yet when you're sharing what you do to help them. Does that make sense?
It does.
So we're talking valuation, and there's just, there's the MLS, you can pull comps. And is what I tell people, is what I focus on when I'm looking at comps, is obviously you want it to be similar property, similar price range. But I always have found that picking a geographic footprint that is close by is really helpful. And any idea on what I use for a footprint on somebody is selling a house in Dunwoody, I'm not going to look at houses in all of Metro Atlanta. How do I filter that down just to the houses that are appropriate?
Mile radius.
Yeah, Google Maps.
Neighborhood.
Just draw a circle.
Getting closer.
No, put the
FMLS.
city in and
You go in and do
FMLS.
the map in FMLS.
Keep coming.
I would do like
Subdivision?
half a mile from,
Subdivision is good, but sometimes you want to go bigger than that. Unless it's a really big subdivision, people probably aren't just
GIS.
looking at that.
GIS.
No.
Zip codes.
Zip codes help, but that's
The area?
school district. Elementary school district. Those are going to be geographically tight typically, and they're going to give you your best comps. It's in the same county. Typically, the zip codes could be different. And it could be like we'll use Dunwoody here because I live in Dunwoody and our office is in Dunwoody. If I had a dime for every buyer that said I wanted to be in the X and Y elementary school district, I probably wouldn't be selling real estate. Does anybody know Dunwoody and know what those two schools are?
Austin or something.
Vanderlyn and Austin. It's like the go-to. You hear that all the time. I want to be in Vanderlyn or Austin, particularly Vanderlyn. Vanderlyn's a little better. But I like to use the elementary school district as a first filter in doing my valuations in finding active comps. Is what do you do when you're trying to evaluate a property? You're looking, what are the three approaches to valuing property? Does anybody know what they are?
active, so within the last,
Above that, like there's three methods to figure out how much something's worth. Real property, how much it's worth.
Location.
No, it's replacement cost, right? So you were thinking on a different plane. Replacement cost, how much it will lease for, its rental, what kind of return on that. Larry gets into that with his cap rates, right?
Right.
But for our general day-to-day
Sales comparison.
real estate, single family homes, condos, etc., we use what to evaluate property?
Sold properties.
Comparables. Sold. We also look at actives and pendings. But what's another one that's really important?
Days on market.
Well, it's a stat. I'm looking for a status. Active, under contract, sold.
recently sold.
There's one other one right in there.
Expired.
Expired. You know what I call expireds? Houses that the market has rejected. The market rejected that house. Buyers didn't agree with the price. They didn't get to the closing, to the finish line at least. I mean, maybe they got offers and negotiated, but basically, expired properties are rejected by the buying public. I mean, really, a seller doesn't have to agree to sell his house at any price, but who makes the decision on value when you're in a real estate transaction?
The seller.
The
The
market.
buyer.
The market.
Oh,
Oh,
I got you. I see
The buyer,
what the market bears.
yeah. And we run into it all the time where if somebody asked me a question yesterday, what is your biggest challenge in real estate? And for me, my answer was trying to have sellers be realistic on price. It's like Groundhog Day with some people. It's like you keep having the same story over and over again. I told you about the stats. You price it right, you're going to get. I mean, there was one of our trainers. They talked about the realm, and these are all like what I just told you about the valuation. I kind of talk to sellers about that. It kind of reinforces your market knowledge. There's three different ways to evaluate property, and I go through that, and I just mentioned that in conversation. But there's a variety of different scripts and dialogues, and one of the ones I like the most is possibility and probability. As real estate agents, we can't conduct our business and work in the realm of possibility. I mean, you can price any house at a price, and it's possible that somebody would come and buy it, right? But there's a probable price that if you get it in that groove, somebody's going to come up, or multiple people are going to be interested in buying it. So I tell Mr. Seller, you know, we can go possible, and your price that you want, which is not supported with any data, you know, like show me the comps that supports your house doing that. Yeah, well, those houses all had, they were all renovated. Yours has not been renovated, so you're going to have to make an allowance for this. But we can work on the realm of possibility, but history has shown that if you shoot for that possibility price and it doesn't happen, you're ultimately going to be selling your house for less than if you would have positioned it at the probable price. So within reason, I'll give a seller latitude if they want to push the envelope, and we just had one. We had a listing in Sandy Springs inside the perimeter, and we recommended a price of $775. I actually brought in agents. This is another thing you should write down. I sought out agents in Keller Williams and other companies that I knew, and some of them I didn't know that well, just to pop in and give them a sneak peek. But also I was looking for validation on the pricing. And I do this after I get a commitment from my seller, because I don't want to hand them this data and have them see some other agent's name that's, works that area heavily and they don't choose me. So I get a listing agreement signed, but I'll bring in people and I'll give the agents like a $10 Starbucks cards, and I don't put it out there to anybody. I try to focus on agents that really do it. And I have a sheet, and if you email me, I'll send you it, but it's a feedback sheet. And you're looking for them to give their opinion on price and comments, and I try to make it good and bad. Like, what are the good things? You know, you don't want to be all negative, but what things would you improve? How powerful is it that you recommend a price and then you've done the work to bring in other agents, which, by the way, gives exposure to the listing when it's ultimately going to sell. They may have a buyer right now, but they're all saying, yeah, that needs to be at $775. I mean, some of the agents came in on this listing and said it needed to be between $7 and $725. So they, it can backfire. So the owner said, I'm going to get, and I'm not going to say his name, an agent with another company that she goes to church with in Buckhead. You know, it's all this Buckhead hoity-toity thing. Their house isn't hoity-toity, but they live in this hoity-toity world. Anyway, he's like older than dirt. I think he has like Parkinson's now or something. I mean, he was an icon like 10 years ago. I mean, you may or may not know his name, but he's not the man he used to be. And, you know, we all get old. It's just the way it is. And he's out of touch with the market. He comes in and says between 8 and 850. Such and such said 8 and 850. We want to try at 825. Well, we missed a huge opportunity. You know, especially those 100K threshold numbers. That's what people search on. That's what the search engines defer to. It's like you would never want to price your house if you had a listing, whatever it is, for $805,000. Seller's thinking, I'll probably give up 5. I'd sell it for 8, so I'm going to ask for 805.
Some people's
Because
cap
you're
is at $799.
Right, exactly.
Right.
You're missing that 800,000 and below market.
In fact, a common theme that we teach
Possibly.
on picking this specific number is to put it right on the dollar, especially on the 100K marks. But some of these search engines that consumers go into, they pick ranges. So we call it fishing in two ponds. So if you price it at $799, you may not get to 800 to 825 or 850. And sellers are like, well, doesn't it sound better to have it $799.9? Yeah, but there is some emotional credibility to that ideal. But there's a lot of people feel that you get more bang for your buck pricing it right on that 100K number and getting exposure in two different price markets. So oftentimes we'll do that. We'll do it at 800 instead of $799.9.
So long and short, we got price reductions. We had some showings, and I mean it's very predictable. Your showings you'll get a few in the beginning, and then it is just slow. And that's why it's good to set expectations with your seller. If you feel like you're going to be able to get their price right, that's a different story. I would not walk away from them, but there's a break point where I'm like, you know what, and even more so because it's happened to me a couple of times in the last 36 months. You go and it's like, I can do this. I'm like, I'm Bill Haas. I can get this thing sold. We'll figure out a way at this price to do it. And sure as can be, the market is smarter than Bill Haas, and it shows you. And when you do that previewing and you start tracking these properties, you'll get a feel for where these values should be, and you'll recognize when homes are overpriced in a particular area. So we got them down to $759.9, and then they ran out of gas. The house was vacant, and they're like, you hear these words, it's like somebody breaking up with you. We're going to go in a different direction. It's like at that point, I was almost like, my wife was like trying to salvage it. I'm like, you know what? Move on. But you got to be smart when you take these listings. And they gave us signs that they're only going to a certain place. I mean, they truly felt like their house is worth more than it is. And I knew what was going to happen. There's one other saying there. It's like, if you think your house is truly worth more than it is, guess what? You get to keep it.
Great.
That's right.
Great line for that situation is look, there's a couple schools of thought here. We can price it above the market and then come down. We can also price it below market value, get multiple offers, and see what it sells for.
Yeah.
You don't have to accept anything, but wouldn't you prefer to be in a multiple offer situation than a zero offer situation?
Absolutely true.
Just a question, and it's a great strategy for.
You got to give that caveat though, because if you're giving that script and they don't get multiple offers, then they have to discount from what they felt like that offer was lower than the market price.
We got to make sure that you're lower.
They're going to be like, okay, well, my agent said that we're putting it below market value, and nobody's even want to pay for this, and now we have to go lower, and they somehow figure out a way to blame you for it. So the reality is, you put a house on the market, even if it's, that's how we have appreciation. Is people pay more than previous people paid, right? And you get increase in median price, you get appreciation property. So it happens. It's like a ladder. I tell buyers sometimes when we're coming in, and it's like the house. You always go back to the big why and trying to remind them why this is a good idea for them to buy this particular house, if it is in fact valid. Their big why. They got to get their kid in school by fall semester. Job situation, whatever it might be. You always want to focus back on the reasons, the big why reasons why somebody is buying or selling. And when they start getting squirrely and worrying about little things, try to tie them back into that big why. Did you learn that at all yet in any of your Ignite stuff about the big why stuff? Yeah. So, where were we going with this? The reality is you don't want to set it up where you're below. We could get it wrong too. The market is really, unless it's a purely real homogeneous product like a neighborhood where everything's the same and you can track sales and it was real consistent in what they sold for, houses are unique and they're going to sell for different prices. And that appreciation is what I was going to say is to a buyer. If you're working with a buyer and you look at those comps, and the market is in an appreciation mode, and your buyers are looking at spending more than anybody has in that neighborhood, I've seen it occur over and over again, and I use the analogy of a ladder. It's like, well, look at this guy here. The last sale was right here, but a month before that, the previous sale was right here. 4 months before that, it was there. This is like a ladder, and hopefully you're going to continue to get appreciation. You do want that, right, Mr. Buyer? They want it to continue to go up. What do they think? It's, after they buy it, you know, they'll buy for, it's gonna be static, and then all the appreciation occurs. It usually doesn't work that way.
Like, that's the way they think.
That's the way they think sometimes. But you explain to them that you are just a rung in the ladder here, supporting the house around the corner that's gonna go on the market, or just came on the market, it's gonna sell for right here. And hopefully that's the way it works. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't guarantee that. But, you know, we know that there is a general 4% appreciation, and there has been for decades in the United States market for residential real estate. So pricing is like real critical. That whole probability versus possibility. You can price it higher, Mr. Seller, where it's perceived to be out of the market based on the comps. And it's possible we will find a buyer. But if we don't, and you don't act rapidly, you don't make that adjustment quickly, you're likely going to have to lower your price below that probable number to get a buyer. So you can go that possibility route, but know that if it doesn't work, you're probably going to sell it for less. And as long as you're aware of that, you know, we can move forward. If that possibility price is within reason. I mean, you see some stuff out there where it's just, I know what's going to happen. I drove by a house in Dunwoody in a neighborhood that's 5s and 6s, and this house was nothing special, and it's priced at $799, I think. I'm like, what are they thinking? And possible, but I bet you that house is going to sell under 6, probably in the 5s. And it'll be interesting to follow it and see what happens. So Remind is a tool we used yesterday, and it's in FMLS. If you go to fmls.com, which is like the umbrella site for Matrix, which is where we search for homes, right? There's all kinds of products in fmls.com. Remind is a database. You can go and put in a particular address, and it gives you a boatload of information, including some like third-party valuation indicators that have ranges on them. You know, another thing that I often do too is I will go to Zillow. Has anybody ever heard of that? Zillow?
Yes.
So Zillow has their what? Zestimator. And you can plug in an address, and you got to figure your sellers, they're probably, and check this out. And you know, if that can backfire. It can, you know, it's not accurate as much as we would like, but you should at least know what that is returning as a value. And if it's returning more what you think and less what the seller thinks, then you can use that as part of your argument. It's interesting, and you can Google it. It's been a couple of years, but the then CEO of Zillow was selling his house, and his estimator said it was worth like, and the numbers aren't probably accurate here, but you get the idea. It was worth like 1.5 or something in California, and it ultimately sold for like $750,000 or $800,000. They even have, if you drill into Zillow, because it's an algorithm, right? It's not somebody sitting there calculating it. I mean, they don't know what the inside of the house looks like.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of soft factors. Is the lot nice, or is it sloped? Does it back up to a shopping center? But there's even disclaimers in Zillow that say that, you know, like standard deviation, how often their information is incorrect, and it's, you know, they admit that it's nowhere near perfect. So this CRS tax suite, so we have 2 MLSs, right? Does everybody know that? We have FMLS, what's the other one? Yeah. So if you go into GAMLS.com, it gives you access to that Paragon, which is like Matrix, where you can search houses. I don't really like it very much. We enter our listings in there, but I find it very clunky. But there are some good things about GAMLS. And one of them is they've got this CRS tax suite. So if you go to GAMLS.com, did everybody get the URL? Some people came in late. Did you guys, are you on this page here?
I still couldn't
Kirsten?
find it. Can you tell us?
Yeah, here's some things.
Tell us the page again, because I couldn't find it.
KWAP,
Okay.
Ignite, all one word,
Oh,
.info.
that's what it was.
Chantel,
Uh-huh.
you're on it? Okay. So that'll bring you, if you click those links, but you'd have to have your logins from those respective FMLS and GAMLS to get into those products. But that CRS Tax Suite, it has a lot of good valuation tools. Actually, I like this Remind Better. But nothing beats using like the FMLS comps and trying to search out active, pending, sold, and what's the other one that we're going to keep in mind? Expired listings. Because those ones, you know, a lot of agents when they do CMAs, they don't do the expireds, but a lot of times the expireds you'll see ultimately sold for a lesser list price, you know, significantly less than what they expired at, or they're currently relisted for a lower price. And that's all part of the puzzle in that valuation in helping the seller understand really what their property is worth. And then there's other tools that are all good. There's Cloud CMA, and both FMLS and GAMLS have access to that. And that basically allows you to pick comps and create a graphically
Beautiful.
enticing, viewable presentation. There's an online version and a PDF version. It's really cool. Has anybody seen that Cloud CMA? It's nice. Sometimes it's just better to do raw comps and print them out and sit with your seller though, you know, not do the pretty thing, or do both. So let me see if I can show you something. I'm going to get it at break. I want to show you guys something. I don't have it right now. So get your pricing right. It's just super important to have the listing priced right initially. It's going to make your life easier. It's going to reduce stress in your life. There's nothing worse than having a listing that is not getting shown and you're not getting offers. And you've got to talk to that seller. And they're wondering, why did I hire this person? What's going on? Hopefully you would have told them, you know, if this isn't the right price, the market's going to react. And we'll need to make adjustments. You know, it's not their decision. You know, the buyer is going to vote with his wallet or his feet. He's either going to trade his money for the house or he's going to walk away and find something else. You don't have to agree whatever price that he wants to pay, but you really don't have a choice in this other than to say yes or no. Buyers are going to determine value. So use that. Rely upon other agents for help on pricing if you need it. It also gives exposure. And then you got to price watch too. You got to look at your comps as the listing evolves. You know, if all of a sudden 2 listings come in the same neighborhood and they're significantly less, and you're the highest price, you're just going to help sell those other properties. So you got to keep an eye on it. In fact, I'll talk about this right now, this Matrix portal for sellers. Has anybody used, this is Matrix, this is FMLS we're talking about, where you can set up a system where people get auto emails, consumers do.
Yes.
You guys done that?
Yes.
That is like one of the most powerful tools. You know, we're trying to come out with something at Keller Williams that does that, and it's based on Nextdoor.com neighborhoods, which is good. And I think it'll evolve to be better than this. But right now, I use this portal. So it originally was completely designed to give listing information to buyers. But you don't have to use it in that format. You can use it for sellers. And whenever I have a listing, I'll go in and I'll create a portal with auto notification. If it's a big neighborhood, I may scale back the frequency on the messages are sent out.
If it's a smaller neighborhood, you want to have a decent pool of information. But if it's, you know, you just got to gauge it. But the reality is that, you know, a house comes on the market, this thing is doing the work for you overnight, and it copies you, so you see a copy of it, the email that goes out. And, you know, one of your neighbors, a couple doors down the house, lists their house. You didn't even know they were going to be putting it on the market. You back out of your driveway as the seller of the house that's currently listed for sale, go to work. It's like, I didn't know the Joneses were selling. Get to your office, turn on your computer, all of a sudden you got an email from me with that new listing and the price. Half the time they don't know that you didn't send that to them purposely, that it was an automated sale. And you can now set it up where it tracks it all the way from active, pending, expired, and sold. So I set my sellers up for a pool of area of similar properties close by typically. I won't do the whole elementary school district. I want it more focused on stuff that is specific to them. And they're getting touched with these emails of these properties that are coming on the market and going under contract and selling. And once again, it just makes you look good. You know, you can do that. This is an unbelievable thing. You were talking about making those calls, is to offer to do something like this to your tight sphere of influence people that live locally. Hey, can I send you market updates on homes in your neighborhood? I know you're not going to be selling anytime soon, but can I just keep you posted on what's developing? Who doesn't like to get information about the value of their home? Everybody will like that. And if they feel like it's too much, say, let me know. I'll dial back the frequency so you're only getting it once every 2 weeks or once a month. So, but they're getting a touch from you, and it isn't, you know, in my opinion, I was never like a recipe card guy. You know, some of the stuff got a little non-professional in the real estate world with what you give your buyers, prospective buyers and sellers in sphere of influence. Giving them stuff like this is information that they want, and it establishes you as a credible professional. So use this matrix portal for sellers, for prospects, for everybody. Set them up on it. And you know what the cool thing is you can see stuff. Like, check this out. So you guys, let me go into mine. And I need to do a better job. That's one of my initiatives for this year. Still boiling hot in here. When do you guys want to take a break? And if you need to step out, just go ahead and do it. But
Can you also tell what you think a basement is worth? You know, when you're running the comps and one house has a basement, another one doesn't.
Is it finished? Is it unfinished? There's a lot of questions.
Right, I know
behind
there's a
that.
lot of variables, right?
yeah, and a basement on a $200,000 1960s ranch is going to be a lot different than a $750,000 East Cobb house.
Uh-huh.
So, so I'm in Matrix here, right? Auto email. See this over here on the right column? These are all people I've set up, different things. And so when you set these people up, you can actually see when they go in and look at stuff. It gives you an indication that they've been doing it. So this is just a validity that it's a good way to touch people, that they want that information. I mean, today, yesterday, the 11th, the 10th, the 3rd. It's just, it's how much did it cost again? I forgot. Nothing. Well, you do pay for it as part of your MLS fees when you close a property, but you're not paying an additional expense for it.
So we're 1 hour and 10 minutes into it. Do we want to take a break now or keep going and just kind of go at your leisure? What do you guys want to do? Raise your hand if you want to take a break now. That's enough. Let's take a 10-minute break.
Where's the auto email?
It's under my matrix.
My matrix.
So whenever you
Tell
do
them
a
about it.
you do a
Yes, ma'am.
search first, right?
Can I have your color?
And you have to have a contact established in Matrix. So you could start by going to My Matrix, My Contacts, and add somebody. And then if you do a search, like we talked about your school zones, right? Maybe you do it on that. So if you put in if you want to do a school, you got to put a county in. Let's do the county. And Austin. And we're doing expireds and actives. And this is just an example. This is going to return a lot of properties. We'll see what this is. 58, that's not that many. So if you look at the results, these are the actives, pendings, expired, sold. I'm going back 180 days. If you want to do that, and it's, you got to be careful. You got to make sure you get this amount of listings set to the maximum, which is 100. Otherwise, we would have lost those last 8 because there was 58 and it was set to 1 to 50 before.
So the person who's getting that email can't see the next page. Is that accurate?
Well,
Or do they have to click on it?
actually, this is if you're just sending them to them. If you want to set up an auto email, you'd have to save this search
Yeah, I knew that.
and then do a new auto email.
Okay.
So, but here's so every time you do that, it adds another search element to that person's portal that you have set up. So say you're working with them actively as a buyer, and you just want to share like 3 listings, right? These first 3 listings, the one that's 1.3 million, this one, and this one. Here's a little trick that I use when I want to just send just limited information. I don't want it to be part of that a search in their portal per se. I just want to share these 3 listings with them. I'll select them, right? And I will go to Actions, Email, and then Preview. And you can see it's just these 3 listings, right? You with me? I copy that URL there on the top. And it has like a unique identifier at the end. And if I just paste that into an email and send it to the client, they're going to see exactly this. If I would have sent it, if I would have connected this to their contact, it would come up and it would always be in their portal deal. And that may be what you want, but that starts, it's just, I just want to share these 3 listings real quick.
Another quick question. So I have several searches going to a client, and I would like to discontinue a couple of them. How do I do that? So I got to go into Save Searches, right?
Yeah, you go into My Matrix. You want to stop the auto emails?
Yes.
That's really easy. So you go to your auto email.
So, okay, My Matrix, where'd you see auto email?
I just
My
go-
Matrix, okay, auto email.
And then see settings right here on this particular one.
Hold on, okay, so settings.
Thank you.
I want to.
Yeah, I had it out.
Once you get to settings, you can disable it. Boom, right there.
Okay, so I have to go to the email. Can I just delete them and be done with them? And
You can delete them too, and then we'll send it to them. But if you want to keep them in there and just delete the search that they're getting.
And now, how do I delete the search? They didn't even open it, but I already have a property for it.
Well, you go to,
all right, hold on. I'm missing something here. So auto emails, and then there's a drop down box. Is that where I'm?
Auto email,
Yep,
and you got all these searches.
correct,
There's little carrots to the left of them.
correct.
Click that and go to settings.
Okay, I missed the setting, okay.
Oh, there it is.
And then I just do disable. But you can do delete auto email too, right here.
Right.
So there's a variety of, or you can just delete the contact, and I don't know if that's the best way.
No, I don't wanna do that because he's still getting other stuff. So if I go delete auto email.
Can you only delete, I guess, one at a time, huh?
There should be ways you can do that.
Yeah, no,
Alright, cool. Thank you for that.
So disable just stops them from getting the emails? You want to just keep it as a record or something? Versus delete?
I'm not sure exactly what your question is. What is that now?
When you go under auto emails and it shows the various ones, at the bottom it says delete, disable, and market update.
So what's your question?
Well, disable just keeps them from getting it
Right, they won't get
in the
any,
future, okay.
nothing will be sent to
so
them.
many numbers, I just.
Whereas delete gets rid of it 100%, you don't have a record, okay.
Right.
And it's like the phone calls they look at and I'm like, I'm not answering that, I know who it is.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like someone super important. And then we end up like putting phone tags like for the rest of the day.
All right. I can't find it right now. Back to class here. We still are missing some people. Just wait a second here. Looking for one particular road. How we doing here? So I'm going to finish pricing with this one exercise I did for a house in another house in Sandy Springs. I didn't get the listing. Another agent who was with another brokerage did. And he took it at the price that the seller wanted that we didn't recommend. This goes back to February of 2018, so the information is not 100% current, as far as market stats. The reason I want to show this to you is this is what I sent the seller. So you've got like Cloud CMA, and we're back on this valuation, establishing value, and getting it right the first time. I took and I modified a PDF. I have a program called Qt PDF. It's almost like Adobe Full Acrobat, I guess. But you can edit and amend and do things to PDF pages. So I added this text. These are examples of sellers that got it right. Their home went under contract within 20 days of being listed. This was within the last year in Buckhead, Sandy Springs, and Dunwoody in the 1.5 to 2.5 million price range. SP over OLP, that's your sale price to list price ratio, and the O is for old, so it just doesn't track the last listing period. Is the sales per day. Total days on market is the total days on market. None of the 34 listings required a price reduction, and the average sales price to list price ratio, so list price to the sales price, was 96.62%, almost 97%. CC is closing cost paid in this column here. So we're talking Buckhead, 1.5 to 2.5 million. The column on the right, on the far right, is your days on market. Went from 3 to, what would I say, 21 or whatever? And this is the sold date. I mean, it was all within the last 6 months, I think, of this happening. This is evidence that homes will sell quick, even luxury homes, if they're priced properly. I mean, this is true, right? So these are the folks that got it right, these sellers.
Everybody goes and works out.
Average days on market, 10.
Talk to you.
Okay?
Later.
And then there's your 97%, right? So the following pages represent a number of active, pending, and sold listings. I didn't even do expired in here, but they do come up. That did not get it right from closed by neighborhoods.
from close by neighborhoods. In many cases, the properties are still for sale after multiple listing periods, and in some cases, years on the market. So some of them, this was in 2018, some of these went back to like 2012, that the person had been trying to sell their house. In almost every case, a more realistic starting price, list price, would have allowed the seller to be successful and actually sell their home for a higher price versus chasing the market through continued price reductions and listing periods. So this look familiar? This is just an FMLS sheet. So once again, I did this as an analysis. You can do that Cloud CMA, but you can print these out, and sometimes I do it. I just write with a red pen, and then I scan it back into the computer. But I just tried to highlight, is there that PDF modifier, you can highlight stuff, and then you just print it back to PDF, and it becomes part of the document. So I tried to highlight it.
Or
What's that now?
what did you click on to get this in FMLS?
I just did a search. I just found particular listings that I wanted to share with this seller. This is actually their house. Is this their house? When they bought it? No, I think it is. Yeah, that was this is the house that of the listing I was going to get when they bought it a few years earlier, which was in. Maybe I can't remember anyway. So the bottom line is, whenever you look at a listing, underneath the picture, there's all kinds of little icons. You can do the listing history to see what's happened. If it's a brand new listing, it's just going to have one of these blocks with one number on it. But this is not the subject property. I haven't looked at this in a while.
So how do you deal with, like, if there isn't a lot of listings that have been sold in the last 6 months? I mean, there's a couple listings.
You just got to kind of expand your criteria of, like, differentiating homes, or you got to start pushing the price out a little bit.
Do you use any, price per square foot maybe?
I'll use that anecdotally, but the question was price per square foot. Does price per square foot tell you anything about the lot?
Not really.
Does price per square foot tell you anything about the improvements? Oftentimes it doesn't even have basement information because it doesn't include the unheated and uncooled areas. So, you get a lot of sellers, especially from other states. It's like, what about the cost per square foot? Like, we can look at that. That's okay, but more so than that being a problem, where do the square footages come from? Where is this database of square footages that people are comparing houses coming from? They're coming from the tax records. Has anybody ever told you the tax records suck, that they're just
Yes, they do.
error-ridden? There's a lot of inaccuracies in the square footage in the tax records. Now, we have an option when we enter a listing to put in the square footage, and we can cite the source. It could be the public record, the tax record, but also you can override that and say it was an appraisal, or the builder, or just say this is what the owner thinks it was. Owners never get it right, typically. They're like, they oftentimes guessing and rounding up. But the point is when you're dealing with this cost per square foot, you got people comparing all these different houses and their square footage with contaminated data. So it's not even, on top of it not telling you whether the house has been improved, if it's on a good lot, et cetera, if it's not backing up to a power lines. The whole data pool that you're comparing it against is inaccurate and riddled with inaccuracies. Does that make sense? But just real quick, because I don't want to get too far off track here. So this is that's this house right here. Oops. So this house right here, if you're in FMLS, you can do the listing history, and this is what printed out. So I print this to PDF. They've been trying to sell this one since 2013. They started at what? Look at the price they started at.
Good gracious.
They started at 3.5, and then the next day they moved it up to 4.5.
What would made them think that they should go higher?
$4.5 million, and then it is for sale now for how much?
1.8.
1.8.
Uh-huh.
New listing. 4.5 million to 1.8 over like 5 years. The pain they had to go through from selling this house.
Realtor was that.
Here's another one. It's active. 2.195. This property is still currently for sale, and it's been on the market since last July. They started in at 2.4.
And most of these are because the seller won't budge on price, or
Yeah,
the
seller-
realtor isn't
The
pricing
seller,
it right.
Either it's an idiot agent, because
Okay.
any agent that's not willing to price it in market is just a fool. But it's usually a seller. Priced $100K below appraisal, 2099.
So appraisals come out for a variety of reasons. The appraisal is for the bank to validate their loan. They're not really establishing value. This one had been on the market since 2016. They started at 2.7. You know?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because don't those houses, they take a while to sell, but what is, I mean, that's long, but like what would be like the average price, like not price, average time that is listed for houses like that?
Did you see the beginning of this when I started? Were you still in the bathroom? Does anybody want to tell her what
When did,
the average?
10
if
days?
We did,
Was it 10 days?
if they didn't have to do a price reduction,
The
average days.
Well, yeah, but that like, but not for like the mansion homes.
Those are mansion homes. Those are between 1.5 and 2.5 million.
Really, they sold in 10 days.
Under 21.
Wow.
There was 40 or 50 of them in the last 180 days in Dunwoody, Sandy Springs, and Buckhead.
Which there's a big influx right now on the market.
This one may be the record for time on the market. It's currently priced now, or it's under contract at $2 million. And this was back in 2018, right? But you can see this here. It took over 2 pages. When did they start trying to sell this?
2011.
2011.
Wow.
You want to be that first agent, and you're probably not going to be the one who sells it. It's just, so the point is, I'm showing you this is to validate that if you don't get the price right, these are all horror stories that agents had to live through listing these properties. And guess what?
Costs some money.
When you got a high-end listing like that, it costs you money. They expect you to market it and be available to show it. Typically appointment only. You got to be there for every showing. You're jumping through hoops, and you're not going to get paid, man. This is like pro bono work. So you got to get it. You got to get the price right in the beginning. The other reason I showed this to you is there's these fancy modules like Cloud CMA, and they're all good and whatnot. But me going through this exercise, I learned, not only did I learn, it helped me understand and learn the value, but it also put it in a format like, how could you dispute this? Yet the seller did, and we could pull this listing up right now. They wanted to start at 2.5, I think, and it ended up selling for like 1.7. We'll look it up. I'll look it up after the next break. But
The Chambord one? Is that the one you're
What's
talking
that?
about? The Chambord?
Long Glen Drive. If somebody has Matrix up, look up Long Glen Drive
Okay.
in area 131.
So now I understand when you say the second agent may not get it, but the third one can come with data and say, hey, I see that you've been trying this for the last 6 years. Let's try a different approach.
330 Long Glen Drive. Yes. So do that. Go in and print those comps out. Analyze them. See what is currently on the market. Look at how many listing periods it's had. Look at where they started the price at. Look and see if it's expired before. Look at the ones that are pending. Go through that same exercise and look at the sold and do the same. And if you sit down and you do work like that, even though this seller didn't, they chose not to be realistic,
They did stick with that agent. It took him, I think, if you pull it up, probably almost 2 years to sell it, but he finally did sell it at a price that I recommended. They probably would have got higher if they would have started where I recommended they come in, and had a lot less pain. But if you can sit down with a seller and share information like I just showed you, you're going to look like a very knowledgeable and credible person. Not only that they would want to do business with, but they would want to refer you. Okay? All right, we're moving on here. Staging. So we feel, I mean, when you have a house for sale, it's like a product, like a consumer product. Does Coke, you walk through a Target or a Costco, I mean, well, maybe not Costco because they're more of a warehouse oriented, but you walk through a Kroger or a Publix or a department store, it's all about packaging product to entice people to buy it, right? So it's not even what a house that it's comfortable to live in. You got to like reformat it and package it for sale. And we strongly believe that staging is completely necessary in almost every instance. So whenever we talk about staging, it can be kind of confusing, and you got to break it into kind of two realms. A lot of people think of staging as just bringing in furniture, accessories, and a vacant house to help it sell. And that is one discipline of a stager. And this no vacancy up there, you have a link in your to it. They provide that service. They'll actually come and consult and tour a property and decide what products they can bring in from their warehouse to stage it with furniture and accessories. We had a client that was right up the road here in Dunwoody. He bought a new house. He's like, you know what, Bill? He bought the new house before he sold the old one, so he didn't have to sell to buy. So he's like, I want to just move out. There's some stuff I need to fix up, and I'd like to be out of there and not have to be there when it's on the market. Beautiful. That would be my preference too. But it was vacant. And I said, one of the options we have is to stage it. You don't have to do it. Vacant homes sell every day. But there's an argument that you could actually invest in staging and it would pay for itself and maybe even sell for more and also sell quicker. There's all kinds of statistics out there you can find on staging. I think there's some in the Ignite materials. So we did it. We staged the kitchen, the dining room, or the kitchen with just some towels and stuff, the dining room with a dining room table. He had a leftover breakfast area table that he left there with chairs. They did the living room and the master bedroom and some towels and stuff in the bathroom. Looked fabulous. Photographed fabulous. We got multiple offers. We ended up selling it. I think he spent like $3,500 commitment on the staging. They bring in the furniture, they're dialed in that they're ready to pick it up on real short notice, so logistically it just works. And it's a win. A lot of sellers don't want to pay for it, but it's probably cheaper than what would have been his first price reduction if we didn't have to lower the price, spending that $3,500. And he paid it at closing out of his proceeds, so he didn't even come out of pocket for the money per se. So whenever I have a vacant house, that's something that we'll have a discussion on, and I'm not opposed to it. Some people don't want to spend the money, and I'm okay with that. I think it helps. If it's priced real competitively, that's one thing. If you're the seller and you're shooting for that possible price, you got to do everything in your power to make that product more enticing, right? So you may, I'll take your listing at a premium price, but we need to really stage it if we're going to do that and make sure all the deferred maintenance is done. So you got your vacant house, bring in furniture staging, and there's a handful of companies that do that. I just like that no vacancy. And then there is just general staging. You've got like a Sandy Springs house that was built in 1975 that is
maybe a little updated, family's living there, they haven't moved out. You walk in, and it's like, it's a nice house, but it's not packaged for the consumer. It's not packaged to sell. So a good stager can really bridge that gap and work with the seller. The two most cost-effective and highest impact things you can do, who's got the answer for that?
Kitchen?
Bathrooms, kitchens,
You're on the right track, but I'm talking about,
staging.
yeah, something that you do, it can apply to any room.
Depersonalize.
That too. That's cheap. Paint
Natural light.
and carpet.
Mm.
One of my stagers, Inspiring Interiors, she's no longer in this market. She calls paint cash in a can to a seller. It's like, you're gonna get that money back.
Yep.
Even if you don't do anything else, it just makes it feel clean. And that's where that carpet comes into. The carpet and the paint, even if it's nasty, that's just gonna it's gonna make it feel better. People buy on emotion and not on logic. So when they go in there and they feel good, you're winning a good part of the battle right there. So those are the baseline things. And colors. If you're gonna paint, it doesn't cost anything to pick the right colors, Now white's back in, so this argument doesn't even apply. But I had somebody who, like 10 years ago, before they called me, it's like, come in, I'm like, I want to sell my house. Yeah, we just had it all painted. Well, they painted it like builder white, and it would have been the same cost at that point in time to do like the tan colors, which is what everybody wanted back then. So a good stager is going to give consult as to the most appropriate colors. And it's like anything else. It's like fads. I mean, there's like a Sherwin-Williams, they like announce the new color every year, and everybody flocks
It
to
must be
it.
gray right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
gray
well,
is
gray
taking
is,
over the
I
world.
think
been
gray
in for a
is
while.
out, and now it's
Beige,
going back to more of a
yeah.
white, and I'm seeing a little bit more kind of like a tan tone, but I don't even know. I mean, like my wife, she wants to repaint rooms. I'm like, yeah, it looks fine. What are you doing? I don't know how to paint. We'll spend the money on something else. But we feel so strongly about staging, not the furniture rentals, but the staging consultation, which will cost anywhere from like $250 to $400, depending on who you engage to come out and meet with the buyer or the seller, excuse me. That we pay for that as our agents, as part of our marketing. And we learned, though, is what we do is we pay for it at closing by reimbursing them for that expense. So we make them pay for it, write a check, and we reimburse them at closing. So if they get squirrely and don't price it right, or want to somehow, part ways, they've spent that money. Also, when they spend their own money, just from a emotional component, I think they're more accountable to doing it, even though they're going to get reimbursed, versus somebody writes them a check and somebody comes in and tells them to do stuff. They have no skin in the game. The chances of them executing are low. And a good stager will put together a real comprehensive list and prioritize it. Most sellers don't do everything, but if they focus in on the key things, it's going to improve the saleability of the house, both in dollars and time. So we really feel staging is super important. The other thing that a good stager can do is kind of take the heat off of you as the agent, so you're not the bad guy. They can be the bad guy telling them that this red dining room that they love, that was like the rage in 1997, red dining rooms and yellow kitchens. We had it in our house that we lived in before.
So did I.
If any of you guys still have that and love it, I'm sorry, but it's just not like what's current. So, people are emotional. This is their house. They've raised their kids there. Some of them were born there. A guy just went under contract. He proposed to his wife on the back deck. There's like an emotional attachment. You got to be careful. And be careful on how you deliver the message. It's like doctor's bedside manner. But when you can hire a stager that does this and delivers that message in a tactful way, that takes the heat off of you. And if they're hearing it from them. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
I can just speak to that personally. I've been doing this for 15 years.
Right.
So in Charlotte, when I first started, I thought, oh, I can do everything. So I'd stay, you know, I had stuff in my house, I'd bring it over there and put in there and all that. And you're right, I mean, it's much better to have somebody else be the stager than you trying to do everything for your client, because then you can kind of play good cop, bad cop. And so I bring Carol in, and like if Carol's coming in, Carol's the expert in staging, even though I know how to do it. It was much better to have her come in, and then she would like crack the whip on the seller and say, okay, this has to be cleaned by Wednesday at 12 o'clock because the photographer's coming, and it has to look like the Ritz-Carlton in here.
Yep.
Get your broom out, clean up, you know, do all those things because it's got to look absolutely perfect. And so you're not having to do that for your seller, and you maintain that professional relationship with them as their agent, and not everything for them.
It does work, and for us it's worth it. I mean, even if we had to pay for it, I'd pay for it because, you know, it just helps get the home sold, which is our ultimate goal. A lot of other components to staging include decluttering and getting rid of personal property. You know, a house that has less stuff in it looks what?
Bigger.
Bigger, more open, more inviting. And a good stager will consult and be able to prioritize, repurpose certain pieces of furniture and artwork and put them in different places. I mean, I've had a stager come into a house and kind of reformat a room, and it may not be like the most comfortable way to have a family room, but even the sellers are like, wow, this is really cool. I wish I would have thought of this. It just looks totally different, and it just
I don't
is
wanna
like
sell that.
logical, you know? It's like, and you know, the whole Asian mindset of less is more, you know, countertops, you know, minimalistic. That's good. We even had one stager on a property that had these open bookcases built into the walls on the upstairs foyer, and they all have a little different mindset. It's interesting. But she came back and said, let's just leave them empty. Let's take everything out and leave them empty. And that's what we did. And it looked cleaner for sure. But it's you'll notoriously go into a house and like somebody will have like a big china cabinet and it's frickin' packed to the gills with plates and glasses and everything else. We're like, hey, stager's delivering the message. You're gonna have to move it sometime. Let's pack it up now. We're gonna leave like on a shelf, instead of having like stacks of plates and glasses, there'll be like 3 things on that shelf. And you're gonna move it anyway. You might as well do it now. And you look at it, it's like, it just looks so much more clean and neat. It's like you gave the whole thing a haircut. So a good stager just can work wonders. We have a house that we're gonna list over in Peachtree Corners, and the owner, I've worked with her on a couple different occasions. Her house is like, you walk through it, and I wish I would list that the way it looked today when I walked through it. But she recognizes some of the colors aren't perfect, and she needed to get rid of some of the stuff. And I mean, a client like that is a dream because they want to make the house marketable. They want to package it right. You know, versus most sellers, they're trying to figure out the cheapest way to get it on the market and sell it. There's an equation some agents use that you should spend between 1 and 2% of the value of your home just prepping it for sale, to do stuff, like deferred maintenance. I mean, the deferred maintenance really, you might as well knock that out because it's going to come up on the inspection. So, any questions on staging?
I have one. Do you like the virtual staging?
That was my next.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
I have a question too. Do you ever tell your seller that they need to do a pre-inspection?
I do not. It's not a bad idea. It's a double-edged sword.
Got a double.
Because as they inspect, they identify defects. Some of the ones that they may not have known about, some secrets are just that are left in the unknown, and skeletons in the closet. that aren't gonna come up in an inspection, but technically, once a seller is aware of it, they have to disclose it. So on these older Dunwoody homes, I mean, you do an inspection and, I mean, there's always dozens and dozens of things that come up. So that's the downside to that, is it's front and center and you know about it and I know about it, we gotta disclose it. If it's something that is not, you know, serious or significant in nature or multiple things, you know, oftentimes they just slide under the radar on a transaction. But conventional wisdom always is, it's better to know this information on the front end and deal with it, is the correct answer.
I
But
feel like
practically.
I've done it a lot, but it
Uh-huh.
just depends upon the house. You know, like if they've lived there for 25 years, you know, and the house looks great, but they haven't really had a transaction, then there's a lot of things that probably need to be inspected. And so that if they do that pre-inspection, then they know everything, they can go ahead and repair the things up front, they can provide that disclosure of the inspection to the buyers, and it puts them in the driver's seat. They're not gonna lose that buyer because of some unknown repair that they didn't, you know.
It saves the buyer money.
The buyer's probably gonna get their own inspection anyway.
Yeah.
But let's say you find something like a structural problem or something where the buyer's gonna definitely run away. In that situation, if the homeowner had done a pre-inspection and gotten that repair done, then they're in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I mean,
But still,
so we've got a
the
listing now, and I asked, you know, it's
They're
on
gonna
septic.
get caught on it anyway, I think.
It's the major stuff. So he had just replaced his roof, by the way. This is one way which asked me later about roofs, but you can be a hero to your client, because there are legitimate hail and wind damage claims out there that if you've got a good roofer, and I have a great roofer, she's worked with my clients, in particular this one seller, not this one, but one that will have their house under contract. And she first looked at a house that he was going to buy to evaluate the roof. Anyway, he said, come over, look at my house. It qualified for a insurance claim. He paid, I think his deductible was $2,500. It may have been $5,000, but he got like a $18,000 roof. And now that helped sell his house. And it was this roofer, she's awesome. Her name is Renee. She comes out and she does an evaluation. If she can identify hail damage and that there is a established storm date in the last, I think, 120 days, then she'll escalate it. And then we'll say, who is your insurers? Because some of them are more friendly than others to claims. And then she actually has done it with multiple clients of mine, where she actually is there when they call in the claim. She's there when the adjuster comes out on site, and she gets up on the roof with them.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not always successful, but she is quite frequently successful. But you get the major systems. So we had the roof in that case. They had a septic system. You always want to ask the seller, have you had it serviced? It's going to come up on the inspection if they don't. If they had it serviced in the last 6 months, and they were smart enough to ask the service vendor to write down that it is in good working order, I hand that to, I don't typically, I hold it back. I don't publish it in the docs where everybody has access, but as soon as I have an agent that's interested or makes an offer, I'll pass that along. Same thing with the HVAC, the next major system. This particular seller was on a client with one of the larger HVAC companies where they came in twice a year on a maintenance program. They had all the work records. It's an older system, but it was working fine, and we were able to show the prospective buyer that, number one, I'm a conscientious seller. I've been maintaining this. I've had people coming in here addressing it. And oh, by the way, here's the receipt from the last work, and they said it was in good working order. So whenever you can get that information, termite would be next if having active termite coverage. Have that as a resource. As soon as somebody's interested, start passing along that information, once they make an offer. And that mitigates that issue. It minimizes it where it's going to become a problem with that particular buyer, right?
What is the name of your roofer, please? Renee what?
Renee Morrison. And if you send me an email, because I can't remember her name, it's at the bottom of that page, I'll send you her contact info. Or I'll pull it up here for everybody at the end if you want. But anyway, the virtual staging is second best thing to real staging, because when the people come out to visit the house, do they see the virtual staging? No, it's not there. So, the emotion of being in the property. But, it's a progression. We want people to, everybody's looking where? They're not, do you think they're in the AJC Home Finder, like looking through classified ads with a red Sharpie, like circling the houses they want to see? Any of you guys do that lately? No. They're where? Where are they looking?
Online.
We're looking online. So you got to have things that are going to entice them to want to take the next step, which is what? Making an appointment with either their agent or calling you to see it. So good pictures at this stage are super important. And if it's a vacant house, you may consider staging it. So this is a listing that we sold. This is the front of the house. And we had some work done with a company called Box Brownie, which is on that list there. They do virtual staging. They're in Australia. They don't take pictures. You got to upload them to them, and they can do all kinds of things. In this instance, it was a gray, cloudy day, but they gave us a nice blue sky there with clouds, which I think is, if you look at them side by side, it's much better, right? So that's virtual. Okay, look at above that upper deck there, right? Do you see anything up there? Like this stuff? No, right? See, it's not there in this picture, but this is that upper deck. So this is virtual staging. And that Box Brownie is awesome. You can see they even got shadows in there. They even shadow it. So you're going to have pictures of houses from different rooms from different vantage points. We typically don't stage
Bill,
each one.
there's your side by side, the blue sky with the cloudy sky.
Yeah, exactly. Same photography.
It's pretty
style.
interesting.
So this is a vacant dining room that they virtually staged. Whoops. Let's go back. So all this is, it was just, the hardwood floors were there and the windows, and that was it. But that looks a lot better than the vacant. I don't have the side by side in this one. We didn't do the kitchen. That's virtually staged. They actually, on this particular one, and you'll see it in the future picture, they have like one of those like Brookstone chairs that does the massage, but it was old and not very good looking. That was in this room, so they removed that piece of furniture virtually and replaced it with this. Or it was a couch, I'm sorry, it wasn't. And we did the basement too.
This is called
Or
Birds.
there's the living room. And you can pick your style. See, there's that chair I was telling you about. So this wasn't virtually staged. You can kind of see the difference. Because they were still living there, but most of the house was empty. And that was not virtually staged either. So it was kind of a combo.
It's called Burks and Brownie.
Box Brownie.
Box
Brownie.
Brownie. That's all
Brownie.
virtual staging. It was just an empty basement terrace level. So we had our professional photographer take the pictures, and that brings to the next point. So any questions on virtual staging?
About how much, roughly?
If you go to Box Brownie, and I put another resource, these people, this VHS Media, they're out of Chicago. I like Box Brownie's product better. And you pick like a motif, like that one was kind of Scandinavian urban or something. They've got like 5 different motifs of style of furniture you can choose. I think it's like $29 an image, and you upload them, and with a few days, you're there and you're ready to download them and plug them in. But you got to have the pictures to give them. Any other questions on the virtual?
You just have to have the room pictures, not the furniture or anything else.
Yeah, they do all the plugging in the
Okay.
furniture. And they do a bunch more. They do the blue skies, they do, well, just go to their website, you'll see tons of examples. So, virtual staging, that's like a no-brainer to me, because you want to attract people to go see it. It looks better. Sometimes we'll put a disclaimer in the MLS, hey, this property was virtually staged. But, you know, there's people all the time that list their house and they photograph it when it's occupied and furnished, and then they take everything out when the people get there to look at it. It's vacant. So somebody said, well, that's kind of a false advertising, and it'll be a big letdown for the buyer. I'm like, well, it happens all the time with people's real furniture. So the idea is you want to drive traffic. You want to give them a reason why they want to see it. And people can visualize rooms that are furnished much better than vacant rooms. So, so now we've got it staged professionally or virtually. Prior to that, we got it priced right. What's the next step? Photography. Having good photos is,
Paramount.
it's like a three-legged stool. Priced, staged, good photos. Good photos are the gatekeeper. You go through FMLS and you see it all the time. Toilet seats up,
Oh, I hate
garage,
that.
garbage cans in front of the house when they take the picture. Like a picture for a listing, and you know the box is this big where the image goes, and it's like this big, you know, because they didn't get the right resolution size. It's like, and this is a value proposition we share with our sellers, that we have great partners that we team up with. So I'm going to send this around, this book, and you're welcome to write her information down. She's used to be a secret, and now
That's who I use.
she's awesome.
Yeah.
Mary, she lives here in Dunwoody. She takes great pictures. She either does it herself or farms out the enhancements. More time is spent photoshopping the photos, just cleaning them up, the lighting, everything else, than the actual session when she's out on site. So this book has Mary's information in it, information on why to do a pre-listing appraisal, which we haven't talked about, home warranties. You should put a home warranty seller's coverage on every one of your listings. It doesn't cost anything, and it can end up making you look good. And then the rest of the pages in here are just different listings in the brochures that we've had produced for that. So I'm going to send this around the horn. But Mary's awesome, and we've got a partner, Virtuance, that does photos. They're very good. You know, you just kind of go with what you're used to in life. I need to get a backup person that's as good, but she's unbelievable. Like, let me see this one thing here. This one here. Just to give you an example how conscientious she is. We're always there when she photographs, either myself or my wife, Kathy. And she's, you know, even though we had it staged, we're doing like micro staging. Like she's like, okay, go see if you can find a cutting board and some tomatoes or something to put on the kitchen counter to make it look good. And, you know, sometime this one house, there were freaking like 800 perfume bottles in the master bath. I physically moved them all before she took the picture in there. So, you know, we're there to kind of micro stage and do it. I was looking for one particular listing. It's not in there, but she's just real particular. It was a house in Sandy Springs here, and taking the pictures outside, and I'm outside behind her, so I'm not in the pictures. And she's like, "Can you go upstairs and fix that window?" I'm like, "Sure." And it was, you know, the front of the house had all plantation shutters, and the one bedroom, like, it was not consistent, and they were like open or pointing up.
What is her last name?
Powell. So just real attention to detail. Like something like that probably doesn't matter, but you know, I like a perfectionist when it comes to
I
that.
think she was at my house for 3.5 hours.
It
And it
might
was like
be. Must have a big
$350, plus she took drone photos.
She doesn't. I think she does do. I haven't had her do drone yet, but just regular photos. She's awesome. I've had photographers walk up and they're, you know, taking pictures with looks to be like a high-end camera. She would never do that. She always has it on a tripod, and she does the low exposure. So when she hits the click button, it takes like 5 seconds for that picture to take. That's why you don't want to have any fans moving or any movement. It has to be perfectly still. and it creates really, really good light. She's got a lens that is really wide, but it doesn't have that fisheye look where it's like rounded. And she'll use a paddle, like when she's out in the sun, she'll put like a paddle over the top of it. You watch photographers if you end up hiring one, and just watch. Sometimes they're not using tripods or just holding the camera. I mean, she just does a great job. So we always pay for the photographs. It's part of our marketing costs. We feel like it gets the home sold. She's certainly not the only good photographer. There's also that Virtuance, but I love Mary, and she's awesome. If you call her, tell her I told you that I referred you. And she's a little bit more expensive, I think, she may have been like 300 or a little more for like this 15,000 square foot house we have listed, which was lots of pictures. But it's just marginally more than your average photographer at that, and it's worth every penny of it.
Do you use her on all of your properties or just the more expensive ones?
We do virtually on everything. We'll do professional photography. And like I said, those pictures are like the gatekeeper, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Right.
the first thing people are going to see.
Have you ever used Home Scenes? They give
I
you
have. They've been around for years.
Yeah, they give you a capture writer, so when people calls in on that property, it automatically sends you their phone number and their name.
They're good. Bob Fasella swears by them. I think they're not using tripods. Their standards are lower in general, and you may want to choose a vendor that is more efficient and less costly on lower end listings. And only if you have a luxury, go with somebody like Mary. It's up to you. The marginal difference, like I said, is nominal, and we've been working together for years and years and years. So, any question on photography? Super, super, super important, because you're going to use those pictures for brochures, FMLS. The other thing a good photographer will do is deliver the images in high resolution and low res. The low res, you want to, if it's too big, you can't even upload it into FMLS. You want to use the low res in certain instances. But, so what do you do? Now getting back to that website that Tom asked me about, right? So, this is something, this is a company called Agent Marketing, and they got all kinds of things to help you market yourself and market your listings. Totally unrelated to Keller Williams. We're on some kind of legacy plan, but we use this company for individual property websites. And there's no reason why you can't invest $20 for a website for a listing that you get, one-time fee. You can get multiple listings and pay more per month, but what I'm showing you, you get pretty much everything for that, and it's for 1 year. And if your listing lasts longer than a year, then you're probably doing something wrong. So we've been using these folks. There's other things out there. There's something that actually is available through Certainty Mortgage called List Hub, where they have websites and flyers and whatnot. It's just like the photography. We've kind of deferred to these people because we're used to them. And is what happens is this will all tie together. So we reserve the domain 5179 hollandct.info because that's cheaper and it works good. And this Agent Marketing, it's like a templated site. You build it. You put in a description, you put in details, all kinds of information, and you choose from a variety of different templates that they offer. And it's conveyed, everyone's a little bit different. And you can upload high resolution pictures into here that are HD. So this is the vacant house. They chose not to do, we did a little bit of virtual staging in here, you'll see. But like this is the cutting board thing. We brought those over from our house with the cutting board and the knife and the La Crusette pot there and the wine glass in the corner with the wine bottle. The seller brought in some of those other rolling pins or whatever that is. But this website is specific to their address. And if you look at the brochures that are getting sent around, who has it? Pull one out of that 3-ring binder. Just in it. So we do these glossy high-end brochures. We may just do an 8.5 by 11 front and back for a lower end property. This one was $2 million, and these are Mary's pictures. We chose her high resolution ones for the brochure. We do a little QR code. There's QR code. I think I have that on that list where you can create a QR code, which is just like a gimmick. I don't think anybody really uses them, but if you click on that, it goes to the website. We also published the website in here. On this one, it was www.8395jetferryroad.com. We did the .com. We splurged for .com on this one, not the .info. And that'll be repeated sometimes in different places, that website. And this goes in the house for buyers. Sometimes we'll share them with other agents around and whatnot. And this is a part of it. This we get from Michael Lewis Marketing. If you haven't heard about them, there's a link to them. Talk to Stacy, because as an office, we pay a pretty good premium to have access to their products. And they'll print this. They have a template too. You go in and you fill in the pictures and drop in your text. And you can actually order, you can get the PDF, or you could print it out yourself here at our color printers. But we just have them print them, and they FedEx them to us in about two or 3 days. And it's a nice glossy high-end look. So we use these not only to help sell our listings to put in there, but when we're going out and meeting prospective sellers, we bring that 3-ring binder with these listings in it, showing them the quality of our brochures. But that also does what? What is that person thinking when they're looking through that book? They're thinking, oh wow, this guy's, he sold some properties,
Right.
It just gives you more credibility. So, and you don't have to, you could just build on it. You don't have to have all of them as you get new listings and sell them. Some of these, this one actually, another instance, like 3 years ago, the guy wouldn't listen to my price. Listed it at 2.3. As you get with affluent sellers especially, they just, sometimes you can't reason with them. And they're just not rational. Anyway, we brought him a $2 million offer that he did not accept.
What?
They ended up selling it through another agent, like 2.5 years later, for like 1.8.
That's horrible. That's the story.
Oh my goodness.
I need to do more work on my scripts and dialogues in some of those areas, but I also need to do a better job of filtering and just not taking these listings.
Do you use search engine optimization to drive traffic to your websites?
Through this agent marketing, it will do it. That's virtual staging right there. That was the other company,
Nice
not
looking.
Box Brown.
That is nice. That is nice.
And I think we got the master in here too. That's all virtual.
Which helps the
It's a little
buyer
busy. It's a
imagine.
little busy. I didn't
Yeah.
care for that one that much.
What they could
I
do.
like crazy dark photo.
So I would say like 8 to 9 out of 10 agents do not do a website for their seller. They just don't do it. We do it on every one. Sometimes it'll go under contract before we finish it.
Okay.
But
Oh, that's good.
Well, that's
Yeah.
good.
yeah. And it's real robust. We got a listing out of it. I went to meet with a seller on this one particular property up in Duluth, and where's my mouse here? And we went and talked to him. And it was him and his wife, and I forget where we got the lead. Older Korean couple, super nice, great people. We did the full staging thing too. It was cool. We did the staging with them because they had like
real minimalistic stuff in their house, and the bedspread in the master was just ugly. So the stager came through. She made a list of bedding, light fixtures, plumbing fixtures, and she sent it to my seller. And she gave them links where they could just buy it from like Amazon and Lowe's and stuff. So they just bought the stuff. You know, the bedding came in, the owners put that on themselves. I referred them a handyman. The handyman came in, all the fans and light fixtures were drop shipped, and the handyman came in and just installed them. It was like easy peasy. You know, you're turnkey. You're there to provide solutions, you know, to these people. Because they wouldn't have known, you know, to get the whole thing turnkey that wasn't in their wheelhouse. But one of the reasons why we got this listing, I think, was when we were talking to them, we showed them how we do a website for their property. And oh, by the way, it can be converted into like 47 languages. And I clicked over and I made it in Korean. You should have seen these people light up.
Sure.
They were like,
Sure.
wow. So that's just one of the features of that website. So you can get that all for $20. It's just a matter of uploading pictures and writing in descriptions. A lot of you are already going to write for your FMLS.
I do want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. You're saying $20 per listing or
Yeah.
$20 per year for as many listings that you can get?
$20 per listing.
I'm okay with that
Per
too.
listing.
Okay.
Agent marketing. So, and yeah, if you go to some of the other ones, every one of them would look a little differently. And we let them expire. I don't keep them around for eternity.
Right.
Because, you know, once the people go, I'm not going to pay for the hosting or any of that business.
Another thing, I'm new in real estate. I've been in about a good 48 hours. But if you're selling my home and you bring me that brochure and say this is how you're going to advertise,
Right.
I'm impressed that you have a stake in my game.
Right.
So I'm listening more and paying attention to your instructions even more so now. So
Right.
even if I was 30% interested in selling my house and you bring that, I'm like, oh, well, let me step up my game. He's trying to sell my house. Let me see what's going on. Yeah, I like that. It speaks about your credibility before you open your mouth.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for your confidence. All right. So, does anybody have an active listing right now? You do. Come on up here. Is it like a single family
Somebody's
detached house,
I could use
condo, or what is it?
Both, yeah. Well, I have a condo and a single family detached.
All right. This only works if you have an active listing. You know your credentials? Here you do it.
I don't know what my password is. 1 second. Let me grab my phone and I can get it. 2 seconds. I can do it on mine. Can I bring my computer up there and plug it in up there?
We can try.
Here, I'll just see.
This is.
Oh, you know what? I think I do know.
So, is what I'm talking about now on that worksheet is reverse prospecting. Has anybody ever heard that?
Yes.
Could it, you know what it is?
Yes.
Are you-
Jessica's been, I'm under Jessica. And she's taught me a lot of what you're saying.
Okay. Have you done real estate before this?
2005, I'm still licensed in Texas, commercial and residential.
So go to products, matrix, and go to my listings,
My listings.
my active listings. Let me see here.
Home search status. My matrix maybe.
My active listings. Okay. So
That's
You're-
a condo.
that's okay. Just
Oh, you know, I guess the other one's pending. I
yeah.
apologize.
And that won't work, but this is perfect. So he went and he logged in and he's looking at his own listing, right? Click the box to the left of the number 1. Do you see how this reverse prospect comes up? Click on that. Okay? Stop right there. So, we talked about what I told you to do for your listings when you set it up and you set up a portal for your seller.
you're also probably doing it for buyer clients you have. You might have multiple searches in there, right? So when you do that, you're giving access to your clients. Remember how I showed you they're going in and looking at stuff? Well, go take a class at FMLS. Those clients of yours have the ability to say, I don't like this one, and discard it. But they can also say, I do like it a lot, and they put a heart next to it, which you will be able to see if you're their buyer's agent. Or they can say, I kind of like it, and it's a light bulb. Well, Tom, because this is it's called the prospect match system, has access. These are all the agents that these agents set up their clients on Matrix Prospect Match, and they've gone in and decided they like his listings. They like this particular listing. You don't know who that buyer is. This is a reference number, but it doesn't matter. You just know the agent has a buyer that's interested potentially in one of your listings. So new listing, this is not going to come up the second you list it, because it has to get out there and buyers have to be looking through it and get notified about it. But continually check this, and here's a really cool thing you can do. So does everybody understand me so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
So would you not think that trying to contact these agents would be productive, super productive thing to do once you get a new listing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can go in and you can click on their name and get their information. Well, that's just a direct email, but there he is, there's the information, right? The other thing you can do is you can come in here and you can copy all this. Look at all those. All I did is copy, right? Now, I go to Excel. You gotta have like a spreadsheet. Control V. Maybe they changed something. Let me just try that again.
You gotta copy it to CSV, don't you?
You used to be able to do this, and I'm sure there's another workaround if you don't. And we're going to focus on these top people, right? Because the hearts and the
What's the light bulb?
the light bulb is just, I kind of like it, I'm interested, but it's not my favorite.
I want to say just about all those agents have raw people or something.
And some of them, it may be the same agent in multiple times. Okay, so here it is, right? So I just pasted that, right? And depending on who your email provider is, there's some limitations to the amount of emails you can send out on a daily basis and not get like spam. We're at 175, 185. I don't think I'd go over 200 in one email. Copy that column, just doing copying, right? And I go back to my
Email. Do you email directly at FMLS?
no. I'll go in here, and I'm not gonna do it. I'm going to compose, and we're going to blind carbon copy, right? Because that's kind of rude if you spread everybody's email. Boom. So there you go. And I would put in a subject. You came up. I may do one. I'd probably be calling the people with the red stars and the light bulbs. But I'd send something out and I'd say, hey, you had a buyer that came up in my buyer and prospect match. And then I'd copy and paste a picture of the listing in there and just share with them how you can show my property. Some of them that may be set up that they aren't active buyers. They're just doing it for people in their neighborhood, whatever. But this is a way to touch a couple hundred people that have bona fide buyers potentially, via email for free. It's targeted, to agents. And it's a great thing to share with your seller. I just sent out 350 emails to agents that indicated that they may have a buyer for your property. Oh, by the way, 10 of them, they've already, those buyers have favorited your property with that agent, and I'm calling them directly as well as email. How powerful is that if you tell your seller that, eh?
And I've had agents email me back from the emails that I've sent.
Yeah. Well, their buyers are saying they like the property, so it's like a no-brainer. They may not even know it, by the way. You're like doing them a favor. They may not have even gone into their own matrix and seen that there's a heart next to that listing. So the one thing you want to do if you do that, when you paste it into the Excel spreadsheet, there's a way to sort it so that you can sort it so that the same emails are grouped together, and then you can visually scan it. You want to delete the duplicates. You don't want to send like 5 emails to one agent about a prospect match. You might, but I probably wouldn't. So how cool is that? That's one of the most practical things that you can do.
That is cool.
All right, does everybody understand that? Have any questions? I encourage you to go to FMLS and take classes because there's really, they got some good stuff. So that's your matrix, portal for seller, that's your reverse prospecting. In-house marketing book, this is a listing that we put on, that we put in and coming soon in FMLS, and we had the pictures taken, but it went under contract. The word leaked out that it was for sale. We got in touch with the agent representing that buyer, arranged for a showing before it went on the market and before it even hit the FMLS as an active listing. We had it under contract. So we didn't finish this book, but we usually put like one of the flyers in here. And one of these goes in each of the houses. Do a survey if they have it, copy of the seller's disclosure statement. So what you want to do when you have a listing, lead-based paint, utilities, the seller has any pictures, they just had a new roof put on, this is the roof information. Here's your termite information. And the septic was supposed to go into it. My wife didn't get around to doing that. But you can get these at Office Depot for like $10 each or something. And we just reuse them, and we put this in the house. We put it in the house. We try to have it in the house the day the property is listed. That's another thing. It's like my pet peeve is you go and look at listings and there's no pictures at all. It's like we will not put a listing in the computer unless we have the pictures where we can automatically upload them immediately.
I'm dealing with that right now. I'm waiting on my seller to kind of declutter so I can get a professional photographer in there, take pictures of it so that I can list the dang property. And I'm like, you guys, when are you going to have your stuff cleaned up? And the photographer gave me a list of stuff that she recommended they do, and so I just sent that over to her. This is what the photographer recommended you guys do. Yeah. So the whole staging where I'm not the bad guy.
And rightfully so, and you're good to not jump the gun and just list it and then put the pictures in later. Because that listing is only new how many times? Once. A lot of buyers have these notifications sent out. It's only going to send it out one time as a new listing. And if there's no picture in there, they're not going to see a picture and they may not ever come back.
Yeah, no.
So we want the sign in the yard, the lockbox at the door. We want all the pictures. We want a temporary flyer. We want everything done the day the property is listed. We don't go in and like, okay, in a few days we'll do the pictures, a few days we'll write the description. The other thing that really perturbs me, and it's just a sign of the times, is the directions. Right now, tons of agents just say, use GPS. Do you guys do that?
Oh, that's horrible. Yeah.
So, you don't even have to tell me that. I know I can use GPS, you dumbass.
God.
But oftentimes, I'll be working in a place, you fake it till you make it. You're working with a buyer, maybe in a part of town like Akron. I've never been here in my life. I've never been within like 10 miles of right here. But I don't show that. But, it's helpful when you see the directions where it brings you from some type of some recognizable point to it. It gives you just like gives you a feel for where it is if you're not exactly sure. And even some places in Dunway are like, where's that street? Oh, take Coldstream to this. Oh, it's like, oh yeah, it's over there. It's just lazy. Just put directions in. Go back to another listing in the neighborhood or on the street and copy theirs and just paste it in, for gosh sakes. You know? And
Use
write
GPS.
valid descriptions. Think about, don't repeat like the obvious, like the number of bedrooms. You only have like, I forget what the character count is. You only have so many characters that come up above the fold in that FMLS description. You want to really write a smart description that's going to be enticing, highlighting the major features of the house. I never use the word A&D, I always word ampersand, because you save two characters, right? Sometimes with, I'll use W/. I'm almost always, unless it's just like a little one-bedroom condo, I'm always struggling to get what I want to say into that text allowance. Some people have a different train of thought. They're like, don't tell everything, leave some for the imagination where they want to see. I don't think so. I think you put as much positive stuff in the description as you can. All right. Any questions so far?
May
All
I
right.
see that book? Can I see that, please? The book right there.
This one?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Yeah, send that around.
Thank you.
All right. So Super Key Box. It's another part of selling the house. Who's heard of the agent Mark Spain?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Spain. He is a marketing genius. I mean, the reality of Mark Spain is he did like 2,000 transactions last year. His company did 2,000 transactions. He kind of markets himself like he's out there selling the houses, right? But he hires junior agents that aren't that experienced and pays them less. As he does the lead, he spends millions of dollars on radio and television, billboard advertising. He doesn't spend any money really that I've ever seen promoting his listings as a consumer. Have you ever seen anything advertised like these are all his listings? No, he's all basically doing his marketing to generate buyer and seller leads to sell their properties. And where was I going with this? So he spends a ton of money. He doesn't do anything that probably you are going to do different as far as marketing his listings.
Super boxes.
Super boxes, yes. So not now, because his big push is, the guaranteed offer. It's basically at a price that you and I agree upon. So, he's going to set that price. Because what is he going to do with this house that he buys with a guaranteed offer? Think he's going to keep it and put his family in there to live in? No, he's going to sell it for a profit, right? Which could be your profit if you were to play your cards right, Mr. Seller. But he is a marketing genius, and about a year ago, one of his big pushes is we have the most secure showing in the industry. Well, it was the Blue Supra lockbox. Every agent is accountable. They have to be licensed to get a lockbox key to use it. Granted, some vendors like Termite and other ones qualify, but they typically need a CVS code that they have to enter. But he was marketing it as the most secure showing in the industry when he was really doing nothing different than anybody else. I mean, he was using a lockbox that everybody had to have a key to get into. But the Super box is really important. And just a little tip I share with my sellers, unless it's just a real sketch neighborhood, I don't put the lockbox shackled onto the doorknob. I just leave it at the front door. And I tell my sellers, look, if you go play tennis or exercise, you come home in the middle of the day, you need to take a shower, bring the lockbox inside, nobody can ever get in. For the most part, people are going to make appointments. You're going to know who's coming. But when that lockbox is out there in the middle of the day, any agent really technically could access it and come in. So if you know your daughter's going to be home from school for a couple hours early before you get there and you just don't feel comfortable, have her bring that lockbox inside. And make sure to put it back out when you're not doing it. And sellers really appreciate that because it gives them a sense of what? Control, right? So, but we use a key box, and you can, it's integrated with showing time and other things, which I don't know if I have that next. feedback systems. But it's integrated, so just make sure you're doing it. You can go into the Supra website and you can configure, there's a page in there where you can put they have it where you, I don't know why, you put your phone number. For me, I have T-Mobile, so it's my phone number at tmomail.net. And as what happens is when an agent accesses that lockbox, almost instantaneously it sends me a message that the lockbox has been accessed. And it sends it to my phone as a email or text. But anyway, with some sellers, I put their information in there too, 'cause they're curious to know when people are coming or going. Just another level of control, another courtesy to the seller, right? So get your key, be familiar with it, and know that you can set those lock boxes for different levels of timed access. If it's a vacant property, you may want to make it 24-hour access, and you can program it where an agent can do that. By default, I think it goes from like 8 to 8, and that's what I typically do on a occupied property. All right. There's a variety of feedback systems on your listings, both through Supra and Showing Time, and there's also paid ones. Or you can just call agents or email them, but getting feedback from agents while it's being shown is really super helpful, because in many cases they're going to share with you that the price is high. And it's super powerful when another agent, in addition to you validating your premise, if you feel that the home isn't priced right, it's not just you saying it, it's that other agent, right? So that's super important. Switching gears a little bit here. If you have a super luxury listing, you want to do something a little different, differentiate yourself from the other agents, maybe somebody who's got more experience. I found this one vendor, Lux VT, and this is a paid thing. This costs a bunch of money. You have to pay a setup fee, and depending on the price, I think they have 2 price breaks. It's under $750K. If it costs $500, if it's over $750, it may be $1,000. But you can check the pricing on your listing, and that gets paid like an upfront fee, which when I use these folks, they waive that. But I did use it, and I paid it at closing. So you got this real high-end listing. You're like, how can I compete against this agent that does all these real luxury listings? What can you do? You can engage this Lux VT on just a per listing basis. And they'll do like a website like I showed you in that agent marketing. That's this one right here. But they also do advertising when you subscribe to this in all of these venues. Now, it's not their print version, it's their online version.
Did you say you paid for it at closing, or the?
I paid, I mean, you could negotiate the seller pays for it if you want, but I paid for it at closing. It was like $700, but it was a $900,000 house, and I made like $25,000. So,
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I paid
we're
for
on
it
to
too.
the buck.
Yeah.
Reaching international investors, it gets syndicated to all these listings. There's Facebook targeted marketing, deluxe brochures, and you get a listing presentation, which I think you can get this before you ever sign up for it, but this talks about all these things. So when you go in to sit down with a seller and they say, what are you going to do to sell my home? You show them this presentation. And you might even show them like a sample of the listing. So this was, if it's still available here, this was pretty cool. So this was the listing. They made this all, I just gave them the address.
How cool is that?
And then then they go through and they have pictures of the house. So I wouldn't do this on every listing, but if it's a high-end listing and I feel like I don't have enough juice to convince the seller that I'm capable of doing it, I'll do this and pay a $200 setup fee and share $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever it is in closing on a $2 million property. It's like a no-brainer, you know? And so these are the pictures that Mary took, once again, that you upload to them, and they use them and put this little tour. I mean, it almost looks like a moving tour, but it's just, they're just panning individual photos. But pretty cool, huh? Yeah. All right. That's on there. It's called Lux VT.
Yeah, and Mary does high resolution and low.
Correct. All right. Asian caravans. Does anybody know what they are?
Yes.
What day do they usually happen on? Tuesdays.
Caravan.
So, what is the purpose of a caravan?
So that other agents are familiar with your property so that they can market it to their buyers.
That is one of them. Anybody else?
To feed agents.
We like to do it, you know, for a couple of reasons. That was one of them, to sell the property, expose it to other agents. Number one, once again, it's like everything else we've talked about today. It's something that you can share with the seller before you list it to gain their business. You know, this is what I do. This is part of my marketing plan. But most importantly, you're going to know, you know, you're going to find that this is a constant struggle getting listings priced properly. And you're always, it's like a tidal flow. It's like it's always pulling you this way, like they want to list it for a little bit higher. Even if you give them all the rationale and reasons why it's just not a good business decision. So you've had the house on the market. We try to do this in the first 1 to 3 weeks. And we do an agent caravan. We do we offer something of value. We either feed them, and my wife's very good. She'll put something together from Costco, like salad, chicken salad, you know, drinks, desserts. Sometimes we'll do gift cards from Starbucks or Chick-fil-A, you know, kind of just, the higher the end, the more a little bit elegant it gets. We've done wine giveaways. We'll go over to Trader Joe's, and one time we just bought like it wasn't like a sommelier, but it was a woman who used to be a real estate agent that worked as a registrar, and I'm like, can you show me what everybody's buying and they seem to be coming back for? She's like, yeah, get this, and this. So we got like 3 cases of wine. I don't think we spent more than like $12 on any bottle, and a lot of them were like 8. And we didn't even give them all away, so we drank some of them, and they were actually pretty good. So it was a good plan. But we got that, and we got some like lime, all these different flavored sodas, which some people might not want to drink. So you give that away. But something that you can give away, you can promote to try to attract agents. And it works better in an area that you kind of start to build a following in. So like if I do one in Dunwoody here, I'm going to get a lot better participation than somewhere far away. Also the higher end sometimes tends to do better. I won a Yeti cooler at we call it the banker agent's luxury listing. She had like a drawing. Sometimes we'll do a cash drawing or give something away. So, you know, that's another option. But a lot of agents do these caravans and they just feed people or give stuff away, and, you know, they'll talk to them and that's it. In my opinion, they're missing the most important part of the caravan. Unless you feel like you're priced absolutely appropriately right, and it still doesn't hurt to do this exercise, you ping them for their opinion, not only on the price, but you know what needs to be done. Once again, you keep it. I can show you. We have a little form. It's an 8.5 by 11 sheet. You know, what do you think about the price? What's good about this house? What would you change? What's bad? And more often than not, you know, agent's going to say to you while you're there, well, how long have we had it listed? We've had it on the market for 8 weeks. Have you got any offers? Close, but not yet. Any price reductions? We had one. It's like, I don't think you're priced right. I mean, that's just the conclusion. You know, 8 weeks in the market, you know, unless it's super luxury, you're just not priced right, in my opinion. That's almost always the default reality. So they fill out these forms with a recommended price, and they'll also hit things that need to be addressed. Some of them may even ask for guidance, like, what do you want me to say here? Well, those 3 big trees in the back that are dead, that you've heard from other people, if it was me, I'd put that on there, like, oh yeah, I agree with you. Now, you do have to be careful if you do that in your conversations with agents in these open houses. Do you know why? And this applies not only to open houses, but showings.
Because you're representing the seller, it's proprietary information, or, I don't know.
No.
Ring.
You do. What's that?
Ring, like the,
Ring, and a lot of people have their houses mic'd up and videoed up.
What?
Oh, yeah. My current seller, this one that we just put under contract, he was telling me he works for a steel fabrication company, and I went to show him one of the first houses, and he was more on top of it than me. He's like, come outside, I want to ask you something. I'm like, all right. He's like, yesterday my coworker listed his house down on the south side of town, and we sat there and watched the people go through the house and talk about everything. So would it help a seller if they knew the buyer, if the buyer said, hey, to his agent, I really like this, but I want to get it for the least amount of money, but this is the one, I'll pay anything for it. Where does that put you as a seller in getting that information? Definitely in an advantage, would you not say? It's their home. They have the right to do all that stuff. I mean, there'll probably be laws sometime in the future of disclosure, but at this point in time, you need to be super careful. I've heard of an agent that had an open house, and they were bad-mouthing the seller and not talking positively, and complaining about the house and what was wrong with it. The seller was listening to every word he said. And you got to pretend like your seller is watching you when you're in that listing. When you're showing a property, don't go into anything that you wouldn't want anybody to know. And tell your buyer that before you start taking them out. Say, we're not going to have any kind of personal discussions in here. Just hold back. Don't show any excitement. Let's talk about it outside, because you just don't know who's watching or listening. Right? So be really careful. That can really backfire on you. So we get that sheets filled out, good and bad. Every now and again, like an agent will come in and ping in and like, I think it's underpriced. It should be $50,000 higher. It's like,
We'll make an
what are you
offer.
smoking? But in general, if that's your objective, because you've already conveyed that information to your seller or you're about to convey it, to have 5 agents who've written it down on paper in their handwriting, we go home, we scan those sheets, we email them to the seller, and we give them a telephone call, and we go through each one. More often than not, that results in a price adjustment that makes the house more marketable, puts them closer to their goal of getting it sold. So if you're going to do caravans or open houses, make the effort to get the feedback from the agents that are there visiting. It's just a no-brainer. All right? What else are you going? How much time? You got 10 minutes?
Yeah.
All right. This is a good one. List reports. Who likes free
I do.
or no cost?
Yay.
Why did I do that?
I get bombarded with emails from all these marketing companies every day, all the time.
Unsubscribe.
I don't. I mean, they're coming into my Keller Williams email.
Oh, no.
So this is a provider called listreports.com. If you go talk to Randy Lip or Matt Lip or any of the folks at Certainty, they can get you set up. You have access to this without them for free, but that Certainty Mortgage has paid for a subscription that is more comprehensive. And it sure would be easier if I had all my login stuff here.
I'm just going to talk about it because we have limited time. So List Reports is a service that is free to you, and they provide co-branded materials for your listing. So I showed that brochure to you that we had professionally produced. It was like that heavy gray paper. That doesn't come out immediately. This List Reports, when you are able to log in and you do have a listing, it automatically will populate that listing with the pictures that you've entered into FMLS within like hours. And you can go in and you can print out a just listed flyer, and it's already formatted with the pictures and whatever information you put in FMLS. And you can print that out and you can put that in the house as a marketing flyer. Immediately, you don't have to wait and have nothing until your professionally produced flyers come in. It could be your permanent flyer for that matter. They're actually pretty good. And they've got just listed, they've got all kinds of marketing materials that are co-branded with you and Randy or Matt Lip from Certainty. And they're all free. In addition to that, they have all kinds of things that can be used as social media posts, where you can go in there and you can copy it and drop it into Facebook or Twitter or Insta, and it'll promote that particular listing. You know? Does that make sense? So go talk to Randy or any of the Lips about List Reports, and they'll get you set up for free. It's a tool that has a lot of features that are really helpful, and I use it all the time. One of the things that let me just do it real quick. Just take a sec. They have this little graphical matrix that's really cool that you can print out, and I didn't put it in that red book I shared with you guys. This is worth looking at, because the free stuff is nice. Okay, I'm not going to do it. Can't get in. Anyway, they've got this really cool graphical thing that you can put in that red book. And you can also post it as a picture online that has like where the parks are, closest shopping, and it's like an infographic thing. And it's free. So that's another thing through that List Reports. So just go to anybody at Certainty and request that. So that there is kind of the bulk of this stuff. I've already talked, I'm just going to briefly just run through this real quick because we have 6 minutes left. So those are the things I use to help sell the listing, but I also use them to help get listings, to differentiate myself. And there's other little things in there too, and you'll find things too. But it's all about separating you from your other Keller Williams agents and other agents in general, showing value. You know, some of this stuff in the end run, it may not even make a difference in actually selling your listing, but I think it does a really great job of helping you demonstrate to a seller that you are doing a lot of stuff to get their home sold. You're not just depending on putting a sign in the yard and it in the computer and it working. So I talked about mydomain.com. We like to keep we use cloud-based stuff, Google Drive some, like this is on Google Drive here. And Mega is another one. It's free. It's like Dropbox, mega.nz. You can keep all of your, like it's what we do is we use Dropbox too. Does everybody know what Dropbox is? Right?
No.
You don't know Dropbox? Dropbox is a cloud-based service that they give you a certain amount of storage for free. And we go in there and we have all of our company stuff in folders. It actually, you know when you click this little, if you've got a Windows machine, that little yellow folder, and it's like all the files on your computer. Well, you can set it up so Dropbox is like one of the letters on there. When you click on it, all the PDFs, images, etc., are just listed there on your computer. When you make a change, it updates it on the cloud. So my wife and I both have individual computers, and we are able to collaborate the files.
How many more minutes?
About 5. We're not
Perfect.
going to go
I'll be
long.
right.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
So we keep all of our files for a listing. I really don't keep a paper file for any listings. Everything is digital. And I can access it from my phone, my laptop. Kathy can access it when she, we get the pictures back from Mary Powell. We upload those into that Dropbox file. So you get a certain amount for free, which we have been signed up for a while, so we have probably more than you would get now. We're on like some legacy deal. But once we sell a listing, then we move it into like a year category, like 2019, in that mega, because they give you like 50 megabytes for free. And it works really good. So just using the cloud, that way there's nothing, and I've gone back, I've got stuff back over 10 years. It's like it'll happen to you guys. You'll list a house, sell it, or you'll have a buyer, they buy a house, and you help them buy it, and then 5 years down the road, they're going to sell it. Well, I would go back into that cloud folder, and I scan the original brochure from the agent that had it listed and the disclosure. You're going to the seller, it's like you need to fill out this disclosure. They've changed some, but here's the old one to give you a guide to fill yours out by. It's like you look like a pro, So, and it's just a way to manage that, not have paper files, and it's always available. Canned responses in Gmail, you can look at that, it's good. I do my SMS for Android, where I do my texting from my phone. Or I do my texting from my computer. It's just, I find, a lot of times it's easier, you're sitting at your computer. And this one is really cool.
I think so. Okay. Hey, Bill, are you going to share that list with us of all those URLs that you have by chance? Could you do that? Or is that not something?
All you got to do is go to quapignite.info.
Oh, okay. So all that stuff. Okay, that's why I wrote that down. That's why I wrote that down earlier. Okay.
This thing is free, and I use this all the time. It's a video capture. If you've got a video camera on your laptop or a webcam, you go in and sign up for this place, and you can either do it with a picture of you in the corner, or you can just have whatever's captured on your screen. But it's basically recording whatever's happening on your computer with audio. So I will have some properties, a seller, and I want to explain some of the comps. I will take and do this Loom video. I'll have everything queued up, and I'll just navigate it, and I'll be talking, explaining things, and at the end you click save, and it gives you a hyperlink. You send it to your client. You can do it, like I said, with a picture of you embedded in it, or you don't have to. But they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Being able to show somebody versus just tell them is huge, and it's free. It makes you look like such a pro when you do this. That and Zoom. Zoom is video conferencing. It also has a free version. Who has that? Or who's familiar with it? So Zoom.com, or maybe Zoom, just Google Zoom. You're limited to the length of the meeting, I think like 40 minutes, and then you'd have to stop and restart unless you paid for the premium version. But you can get on a Zoom call from your laptop with your client who lives in Milwaukee that's moving to town. And the important thing, not Loom, but Zoom, I don't know why they rhyme, is you can screen share. So I use this if I have to present a contract to a client and I can't get over to their house.
to sit with them in person, or maybe they're out of town, I will go on Zoom. I'll make a connection with them. We'll be talking to each other. We'll see each other's faces. And I click a button and I can share what's on my computer screen with them. So rather than me having a hard copy, or I'm looking at my screen and they're looking at their screen and I'm trying to figure out what they're looking at, when you share that and you do the screen capture, they're actually looking at your computer screen, and there's like highlighting versions. So you can go through and walk through that purchase and sale contract that you just got on their listing because they're in Hawaii on vacation, and explain all the nuances much more effectively than if you just did it over a phone call. And once again, it makes you look like a what? Pro, right? So
Google has that. You can do those on Google.
you can do it on Hangouts. I've done that, but I like Zoom better, and you can have multiple people on it. I mean, Hangouts is good, but I found that to be better. So the Loom and the Zoom are both really cool. Let me just make sure I didn't leave anything off here.
So you say you can go into Zoom, call your person where you can see each other, and connect to Loom so they can see your screen.
Yeah, you can be talking to them like a video chat, and then you can click a button, and whatever's on your computer screen comes up, and they can see it.
Okay.
I mean, the other thing is, and there was a study done, and I primarily work out of my home office, but I got 2 pretty large monitors with a docking station. Who has more than one monitor? I mean, if you don't, wait till there's a sale to have multiple computer monitors in our business when you're like inputting listings or doing things. They say in general it increases productivity by 1/3 to have 2 monitors where you can.
Seriously?
Yeah. I like wait till I get home to do so many of my tasks because I can have multiple things open. I actually have the 2 monitors that I plug into plus the laptop monitor. And it makes life so much easier.
And there's a real easy YouTube video. You can learn how to do it on your smart TV.
Yeah, I mean, most computers are set up to be able to do it. I have a little Dell docking station, so when I go home with my laptop, I plug in a USB, and boom, it just pops up to what was the laptop screen and the other 2. You want to slide a window over, you just drag it over and put it over there. So you can have, tax records, input of your listing, you just have all kinds of stuff going. I find I couldn't work without it. There's some things I can do sit on my laptop, but wouldn't do it.
So
Same
it's
with this
more
Grammarly
efficient than toggling
too.
back and forth.
What's that?
It's more efficient than toggling back and forth and having the 10 open windows at the top of the page.
Yeah, so you've got to copy something, paste it, and you're continually doing it,
Mm-hmm.
So, Grammarly too is another free one. It's like a spell checker on steroids. You're going to be writing communications to your clients. You can download that. It interfaces with everything that comes out of your, keyboard, and make sure that you're not only spelling stuff right, but you don't have any dangling participles and things like that. So, and Jing, you can take pictures of screenshots and turn them into JPEGs. There's like a Windows thing that you can do that now. That was kind of older. I love the Google Maps for when I'm showing property. I'll go in the MLS and just copy the address, have another screen open on the other monitor with the Google Maps, and I'll paste that address into Google Maps. And when I jump in my car, I turn on my Google Maps on my phone, and boom, the address, they're all right there. Easy access, easy to find because you've already entered them and they're in that history queue. So there's just some, you can, technology can make it a lot easier. All right, questions? Because we're about out of time here. I don't want to run long on you guys.
I kind of have a dumb question in
Yep.
a way. Linda Barr, who me said the other day that if you get a referral, even if it's not worth your time, go ahead and try to do it. Well, I got a referral, an elderly lady. I love the elderly people, and she lives in Thomaston. I live in Alpharetta,
Right.
so that's like 2.5 hours away. Would you take something like
So
that?
you're talking about being the recipient of a referral? Not-
Doing her listing, and it's not that expensive of a house, but the lady that referred me is my termite woman, and she
Yeah.
wants me to list and sell her house.
See, I think if it can lead to, if it's in your market area, it's like a no-brainer. But if it can lead to future business by giving you credibility with that person and thanking her, and her not going to somebody else and giving it to, it's worth doing it. And if you're new and you have time to spend a little bit more than you might, absolutely. So I would, unless it is just geographically so challenging that, it just doesn't make sense. But the opposite side of that, giving referrals, excuse me, you guys are all dialed into that, right? I just had one in the fall. I referred somebody, it was a buyer coming down from Milwaukee that I was referred to me by a previous client. They had to sell their house up there to buy down here. I asked them if they have an agent already. And they're like, no. I'm like, well, I can find you a great agent. Would you like me to help you? Yes. Made a couple phone calls to Keller Williams offices that kind of described the demographics of my client, their age, where they lived, kind of a little some more personality. The team leader I called like the equivalent to Brad. He's like, I've got the perfect agent for you. I'm like, okay, well give me that and one other. And I'm going to call them both. And I called them both. And I talked to them both. And they both were very capable. And I called next time I called that person who was buying down here. I'm like, I got two great agents. You want me to tell you which one I would pick, or you want to talk to them both? And they're like, we'll talk to them both. Great. No worries. Let them choose. They picked one of them. I negotiated a 25% referral fee. They sold that house. It was like a $400,000 house, so I got 25% of their 3%. A couple grand for making some phone calls. The referral is like the best form of real estate commission you can do it. There's a guy who used to sell real estate here in Atlanta, and he moved to England. And he did all his marketing and did social media, and he was generating leads still like crazy. He was just referring them to agents here in the U.S., in Atlanta. And he was actually making a living out of just referring people all, via online and not even touching any buyers or sellers and collecting referral fees. I mean, if you get 4 of them at a 25% referral fee, it's like you're doing it yourself. If they're really a super qualified, super motivated referral, you might even ask for a 33%, because it's an easier job for the other party. So don't forget about those referrals. Don't forget to ask people that are moving here from out of town that are your buyers if they're working with anybody in their current market, as you can pick it up. Or if they're listing here and going somewhere else to buy. Hey, do you know an agent where you're going? No. Well, can I help you find a great agent who works just like me? Yeah, sure, that'd be great. Put it together, referral forms in the docs, and get it signed, and that's a good form of commission. I want to show you any other questions? Yes.
Bill, everything you do seems so comprehensive. I mean, it's unbelievable how much information you have and how you get it out there. How often do you find that people would reject your listing their home? Do you ever get any of that happening when you're listing?
Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, you never know. It's like, it was probably the year before last. I had, in 1 week, I had somebody not choose me because I was too close to them, like on a friendship level. And then like 5 days later, I had somebody not choose me because they wanted to hire their best friend. It's like from both ends, right? So yeah, I mean, it's just, you never know. But here's one other thing, and you can get to this and you can play with it. This is really cool.
We'll keep you forever.
One last thing.
He loves his tech.
This is another Google product. It's called Google
Reports.
No, it's the questions.
Forms.
Google Forms. So you can go in and create a form where you email a link to a prospective buyer. You can do it for a seller too. We don't have the seller version. But you can take this and copy all this and create your own. But this, when we make initial contact with a buyer, we send them a link to this, And some of these questions with the asterisk are required, and some of them are multiple choice, some of them are you can check multiple things, some of them are more narrative. You may like other questions, but it's pretty comprehensive. So you get somebody to go through this, and if it's a couple, we suggest that both the husband and the wife do it and compare notes, because oftentimes they don't even realize it, but they're on different pages. And it's a lot better if you figure this out on the front end than later on. But this gives you a roadmap to sit down and have a consultation with them to figure out what's important to them, what they're looking for. You're also getting other information. When you get all this and they take the time to fill it out, which we haven't had anybody say no,
So
you
those
get
are
a
all your
really good
questions.
feel.
Those
What's
are all
that?
your
Yeah.
questions, right, that you
Yeah.
put
I
together.
took Bill's form because he was the first one in our office to do this. Thank you, thank you. And I made my own and I sent it to clients. So I'm gonna email it to all of you guys.
Great, thank you.
And
Super duper.
then you're gonna show them how you get the spreadsheet?
I
Or you're
can't
not in
just-
Google form, okay, okay.
Basically, you can go through and you can print it out with just their specific answers. It's kind of designed to be like a Survey Monkey, but you can drill into just the one set of answers. And we typically print that out, and when we go in to have our buyer, you don't call it a presentation, what do we call it?
Consultation.
Consultation. We use this as our roadmap to sit down and talk to them, and we just go through and validate that and ask them questions. And if it's husband and wife, we'll have them side by side and we'll turn the pages. It's amazing when you get differences, and it helps them reconcile amongst themselves. It's like you really are a consultant at that point. You're not just like some salesperson trying to get them to buy a house. So this is really good. Is what I did, Stace, is I showed them how to get a domain, and I created a domain called quapignite.info, and I pointed it towards this sheet here that has all these hyperlinks. So they have access to all that information, and
Is he the bomb or what?
Yes.
So-
Yes.
anyway, and the cool thing about this is, I don't have you guys set up and have permission, but if you get into a case where you do hire an assistant, you're working with them, and they have like this Google Forms open, this Word sheet, you can sit there and collaborate if you're both trying to build like a listing description with your assistant. You can have both be online and typing, and you can actually see the other person type, and you can start typing and you can add stuff in it. And it's all saved to the cloud, and it's all right there. It's like an unbelievable collaboration tool.
Yeah, I am almost exclusively using Google Docs, Google Sheets, for those reasons that, we on staff, we collaborate on forms and saves instantly. I just love it. And I was a Word girl all the way.
So if you
Awesome,
guys,
I should say.
you saw my phone, you can text me or email me if you have any questions. Is there any more questions right now?
We have your information?
Remember my text?
Okay.
Sharing contacts?
Yes,
Oh, yes.
it's also on the web.
They
I'm
already
looking at it
have
right
you.
No, we didn't do the videos, the staging and the open house, but if you
Oh,
want
the
to share with them.
stagings are so old. No.
So,
Okay, we're gonna have a whole separate open house class, because that's really important, and Ignite doesn't really give it time,
yes. All right, class dismissed.
Thank
Whee!
you.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
I'm feeling smart. Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah,
You
don't
guys
forget the
are welcome. You guys
evaluation.
are good. You're gonna